Chapter 463. Looking at Huangli Island, which was firmly protected by a bowl-shaped protective barrier, and the beast tide that was rushing towards Huangli Island like a tidal wave, Lu Dague slapped his head in annoyance. Looks like I have to find a type of escape technique to cultivate next time. Even though I had rushed over, I still couldn't make it to Huangli Island before the demon clan attacked. If I send out the sound transmission sword now, it is highly likely that the demon clan cultivators will discover my location. Just when Lu Dague was at a loss of what to do, a ridiculing voice was heard. Isn't this Taoist came? Didn't you clamor about breaking through Huangli Island earlier? How come you're scared now? Well, with your cultivation base that has just broken through to the core forging stage, your chi and blood are fluctuating badly. Obviously, you haven't had time to consolidate your breakthrough. I'm afraid that once you enter the battlefield, you will be scared to the point that you will fall from the core forging stage before the enemy attacks. A group of mocking laughter rang out. Lu Dague turned around expressionlessly and looked at several young monster race cultivators behind him. These people were the ones that Lu Dague met when he passed through the deep-sea monster race's channel. They were rushing to besiege Huangli Island and were ready to make a contribution. Like Lu Dague, they were also monster race cultivators that had just transformed. All along the way, Lu Dague was stiff and reticent, and he'd suffered no small amount of ridicule from these demon cultivators. On the other hand, Lu Dague was unwilling to cause trouble because he carried an important mission, so he'd always ignored the ridicule of these people, and this instead encouraged their arrogance. Lu Dague knew that these monster race cultivators belonged to the kind of young elites with considerable status in the monster race. At least, Lu Dague knew that among the leading monster race cultivators, there were cultivators of the primordial giant crocodile clan. Seeing Lu Dague's dull expression, the leading monster race cultivator couldn't help but feel a little bored. This is really Taoist came. He can really endure. Back then, Taoist came, the seventh patriarch of heaven creation, only knew how to sleep in the South Sea. He almost didn't even pass down his teachings. I didn't expect that his descendants would learn nothing else but this ability to endure. Another monster race cultivator echoed, a cowardly turtle. If he can't endure, how can he be called a cowardly turtle? Everyone roared with laughter again, shouting noisily in the direction of Huangli Island. Destroy Huangli Island, capture Lu Xinping alive. Lu Ping's reputation skyrocketed after he opened up a new territory on Huangli Island, especially after he defeated the monster race's attacks on Huangli Island. The monster race always respected the strong, and after Lu Ping killed a few monster cultivators on Huangli Island, the monster race recognized his strength. Among the monster race, many core forging realm cultivators set defeating the human Lu Xinping as their goal. This time, when Xinling sect was besieging Tianling Mountain, the monster race took the opportunity to attack Huangli Island. Many of the monster race's younger generation disciples joined in, hoping to reclaim Huangli Island, capture Lu Xinping alive, and become the new hero of the monster race. Lu Dague looked at the backs of these people, his eyes filled with anger, but then he smiled contemptuously. After thinking for a while, he suddenly thought of a plan. He jumped into the sea and quietly followed behind the group of demon cultivators. At this time, there were nearly 20 core forging stage demon cultivators hovering in the air above Huangli Island. The three leading them had reached the late core forging stage. If Lu Ping was here, he would recognize two familiar faces. One was Dao Master Mo Wei, who had suffered several losses in the hands of Dao Master Chu Xuanqi. The other one was Taoist Lu Hai, who almost died in Lu Ping's hands. This time, Taoist Lu Hai was full of ambition. After years of bitter cultivation, he finally advanced to the late core forging stage. This time, he came here for revenge. Although there was only a small gap between the 6th layer and the 7th layer, it was a huge gap between the mid-core forging stage and the late core forging stage. Taoist Lu Hai, who had smelted the heaven and earth spiritual objects, had deeply experienced the huge gap between the mid-core forging stage and the late core forging stage. This was also the reason why he was so confident in participating in the battle on Huangli Island. Dao Master Mo Wei was a famous general among the demon cultivators. Last time, he used his human pet as a spy and almost broke through Huangli Island, but coincidentally, Liu Ping broke through to the mid-core forging stage. After coming out of seclusion, Liu Ping went on a killing spree, but in the end, all his efforts were in vain. This time, Dao Master Mo Wei made a comeback. His cultivation had also broken through to the 9th layer of core forging stage. Originally, he wanted to avenge his previous humiliation. However, he didn't expect that Demon King Ao Chuang, the Lord of Golden Flood Dragon Island, would send another late core forging stage demon cultivator to preside over this matter. Moreover, he strictly ordered Dao Master Mo Wei to assist this person. Dao Master Mo Wei looked at the spiritual master of the primordial giant crocodile clan, who had reached the 7th layer of core forging stage, and shook his head helplessly. This spiritual master Ao Lai was said to be Demon King Ao Chuang's brother. This time, he was obviously here to reap the benefits. However, Dao Master Mo Wei had no choice but to do his best to assist. Not to mention the primordial giant crocodile clan's influence in the North Sea Demon Clan, Dao Master Mo Wei was only the leader of a small clan. The achievements he had today were all due to his own unremitting efforts. How could he go against the will of the Demon King? At the end of the day, his own strength was still insufficient. If he could become a Demon King, then he would truly be someone who had a say in the North Sea Demon Clan. At that time, even the primordial giant crocodile clan would listen to his opinions. How could they brazenly reap the benefits of the Demon King? Just as Dao Master Mo Wei's thoughts were racing, he heard a loud noise coming from below. Dao Master Mo Wei was furious. To attack an island like Huangli Island, which was like an iron wall, the most important thing was to have a unified command. The most taboo thing was to attack randomly. Not only would it be ineffective, it would also give the opponent an opportunity to take advantage of. When Sage Mo Wei lowered his head to look, he couldn't help but frown. He saw these tens of young demon race cultivators who had clearly just transformed not too long ago, rushing towards Huangli Island's Grand Array. A series of spells and magic treasures attacked the Grand Array, causing the entire Grand Array to tremble. Unbridled laughter rose and fell, appearing out of place on the battlefield that was overflowing with killing intent. Dao Master Mo Wei knew that these young demon cultivators were famous princes from the various large races of the North Sea. Perhaps there were some who were brimming with talent, but they were also arrogant and arrogant. They had always been domineering among the demon race because of their background. Dao Master Mo Wei looked at Dao Master Ao Lai beside him, but he saw that Dao Master Ao Lai was completely indifferent. So, he turned to Dao Master Ao Lai and said in a deep voice, "Manner Master Ao, please restrain the behavior of these young cultivators so that the human cultivators won't be able to take advantage of them." Dao Master Ao Lai's appearance was not as majestic as Demon King Ao Chuang, short and thick. He smiled and said, "It's not a big deal. We, the demon race, should be like these children, have a fearless heart. In this attack on Huangli Island, our strength has greatly surpassed the human cultivators on Huangli Island. Now that Xinling's sect has surrounded Tianling Mountain, Xinling can't even take care of himself. It's time for us to take down Huangli Island and make a name for ourselves." Dao Master Mo Wei's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly said, "Manner Master Ao, you mustn't be so careless. These young cultivators are the hope of our demon race. If they are harmed, I'm afraid that the elders and their families will blame us." Dao Master Ao Lai let out a long laugh and pointed at the cultivators who were leading the group, saying, "We, the primordial giant crocodile clan, will take the lead. What can others say? From what I see, Mo Wei Manor's previous setbacks have worn away all of his lofty aspirations, and now he doesn't even have the slightest bit of boldness." Dao Master Mo Wei was furious, but he didn't dare to turn against Dao Master Ao Lai. Just as he was about to persuade Dao Master Ao Lai patiently, Dao Master Ao Lai waved his hand and said, "You don't have to worry about this anymore. That Chu Xuanqing might have already arrived at Huangli Island. Once he makes a move, you and I will stop him. By then, Lu Hai will be able to command the demon army to slaughter Huangli Island, and the credit will be ours." Dao Master Mo Wei cursed in his heart. "The credit will naturally go to you, but once these young cultivators are harmed, the clan forces behind them will not find trouble with you, but the blame will fall on me and Lu Hai, who was rubbing his palms together. Master Ao Lai turned to look at the silent Master Mo Wei and thought for a moment. This time, after we reclaim Huangli Island, we will still need Manor Master Mo Wei's help. After we succeed, I will definitely report to cousin and repay you. Master Mo Wei expressionlessly thanked him, but from the corner of his eyes, he saw a flash of golden light amidst the attacks of the cultivators. Master Mo Wei's eyes twitched. At this moment, someone is sending a message to the human cultivators on Huangli Island. Demon pets, there are human demon pets mixed in with the demon race. Master Mo Wei's divine sense swept down, checking the group of demon cultivators who were besieging Huangli Island one by one, but he didn't find anything. At this moment, he heard Master Lu Hai exclaim in surprise. Master Mo Wei turned and asked, "What is it? Did Brother Lu Hai discover something?" Master Lu Hai smiled and said, "I did find an interesting turtle cultivator. The last time I saw him, he was very obedient, so I brought him back as a mount to the demon domain. Later on, when we besieged Huangli Island, he also attacked the island. But after the Jinling counterattack, there was no more news of this mount. I thought he had fallen, but unexpectedly, not only did he escape, he even had some good fortune, condensing his gold core and successfully transforming." Sage Mo Wei's heart skipped a beat as though he had sensed something. Following Sage Green Sea's finger, he turned to look at the tortoise demon, only to see a cultivator with a wooden expression. Even his blood and chi had stabilized, and he was currently attacking the Grand Array of Huangli Island with a group of young Yao cultivator disciples. Lu Dagui took advantage of the chaos to send out the sound transmission magic sword in his hand, and very quickly, he felt a strong pressure coming towards him. Lu Dagui was scared out of his wits, thinking that he had already been exposed and couldn't escape. Just as he was hesitating whether to escape or not, he saw a light screen of the island's protective array in front of him, suddenly collapsing under the attacks of the crowd. The surrounding demon cultivators cheered, clamoring to charge into the island, but suddenly, an urgent shout came from the sky: "Retreat! Danger!" However, everyone was eager to make a contribution. Seeing that the impregnable Huangli Island had been broken by them, how could the demon cultivators listen to the advice of others? All of them flew towards the entrance of the disintegrated island without a second thought. When Master Mo Wei saw that Huangli Island's protective array was still intact, with only one broken, he sensed danger in his heart. He hurriedly tried to stop them, but it was already too late. A burst of crimson flames suddenly spewed out from the gap in the island's protective formation, colliding head-on with the demon cultivators who were scrambling to fly toward the gap. "Oh my God, there's an ambush! Retreat! Retreat! Don't block my way, you're courting death! Someone save me, I'm from the Octopus clan. Damn it, save me first. My father is AOD. After a series of wails and howls, the few demon cultivators at the front turned into ashes on the spot. The few demon cultivators who were lucky enough to survive were all injured, and they turned and ran. Unexpectedly, they collided with the cultivators who were flying behind them, and the scene was in chaos. The scarlet red flame at the entrance took the opportunity to spit out again, burning towards the crowd of demon cultivators. "Chu Xuanqing, how dare you!" An angry shout came, and Master Mo Wei had already taken the lead to rush towards the surging flame. He opened his mouth and spat out a gush of black water, which turned into a sky full of dark clouds that burned towards the scarlet red flame. For a moment, there was a loud chi-chi sound, and white smoke quickly spread out, covering the surroundings. Master Mo Wei's face turned pale, and he immediately understood that Chu Xuanqing had condensed a golden core and had already stepped into the half-step transcendence realm. He was definitely not a match for Chu Xuanqing, so he hurriedly turned around and shouted, "Palace Master Aolai, quickly come and lend me a hand." Taoist Master Aolai was stunned when he saw 7 to 8 demon race cultivators fall in an instant. When he heard Taoist Master Mo Wei's roar, he hurriedly took out a serrated broadsword and charged towards the red flames. At this moment, 7 people suddenly rushed out from the flame. The 2 young cultivators in the lead were at the 4th level of core forging, and the other 5 were at the 3rd level of core forging. The 7 of them directly rushed towards the chaotic Crown Prince Hall. This time, Yuan Guang, and my friends from Xinling sect will have to ask the various Laozu of Xinling for a lesson. It was obvious that he wanted to interfere in the battle between Xinling sect and Xinling. At this time, both sides were evenly matched. Other than Dao Sheng Laozu, Xinling's other Laozu might have the upper hand, but once Yuan Guang Laozu, a mid-Dharma adept, interfered, Xinling would definitely lose. Just as Yuan Guang Laozu was about to head towards Jiang Tianlin and Lu Tianling, a sigh came from the depths of Tianling Mountain. Through Xinling's sect-protecting array, it was as if someone had suddenly stood in front of Yuan Guang Laozu and said, "Friend Yuan Guang, this is an internal battle between the various sects in the North Sea. Friend, you are from a large sect in the East Sea, so why do you have to interfere in the battle between us small sects?" Yuan Guang Laozu's foot that had been lifted came back down again. He looked at the empty space in front of him and said in a serious tone, "Who are you? I didn't expect Zhengling to be so secretive. There's actually a mid-Dharma adept in the sect." As soon as Yuan Guang Laozu finished speaking, there was a commotion in the surrounding space. Yuan Guang Laozu looked up expressionlessly and snorted coldly. He then looked in front of him again. A few feet in front of Yuan Guang Laozu, the ground suddenly bulged upwards. A pile of soil and rocks tumbled upwards and then stuck together. Not long after, a middle-aged practitioner with a slightly aged face appeared in front of Yuan Guang Laozu. Earth true form. Yuan Guang Laozu's expression finally changed. He looked at the person in front of him and said in a serious tone, "Your earth-based techniques are excellent, and you are at the mid-Dharma stage. You must not be a nobody. Why haven't I heard of you in the North Sea?" The yellow-faced, middle-aged cultivator chuckled and said, "I haven't been in the North Sea for dozens of years. Presumably, most of the fellow Taoists in the North Sea cultivation world think that I've already passed away. My name is Tiankong. Has fellow Taoist Yuan Guang heard of this name?" Another gasp came from the empty space. Yuan Guang Laozu's face was full of shock. He said hoarsely, "It's you? Haven't you been relying on the longevity elixir to prolong your life? How did you? Good. Your sect is really good. For mid-Dharma adepts. The entire North Sea training world has been fooled by your sect." Chapter 464. In the sky above Huangli Island, Dao Master Ao Lai thought that it would be a piece of cake to capture Huangli Island, but he didn't expect to fall into Chu Xuanqing's trap from the very beginning. 7 early core forging realm monster cultivators died, 6 were seriously injured, and the rest of the cultivators who escaped back with pale faces were full of fear, no longer daring to get close to the island's protective formation. Dao Master Ao Lai's face was livid. Dao Master Mo Wei had already warned him in advance, so Dao Master Mo Wei obviously wouldn't jump out to accuse Dao Master Ao Lai at this time. Instead, he silently stood behind Dao Master Ao Lai and didn't say a word, willingly becoming a foil to Dao Master Ao Lai. Among the 7 dead monster cultivators, 4 of them were direct descendants of clan leaders or elders of large North Sea monster clans, and their family members were all influential figures. There was no lack of a possibility that one of them had the bloodline of a monster king, and one of them was even from the primordial giant crocodile clan, Ao Lai's own nephew. This time, he was entrusted by his brother AOD to let his nephew experience a real battle, to polish his nephew's arrogance, but he didn't expect that before the battle broke out, his nephew would die first. Dao Master Ao Lai could already imagine his brother AOD's rage when he found out that his son had died. AOD was a figure who had reached the half-step Dharma characteristic stage and was considered to be the future 10th Monster King of the primordial giant crocodile clan after Monster King Ao Chuang, the Lord of Golden Serpent Island. Among the rest of the seriously injured monster cultivators, many of them were of rather noble birth. Dao Master Ao Lai could already foresee that even if he could capture Huangli Island this time, he wouldn't be valued by the North Sea monster clans, and there was even a possibility that he would be abandoned as a scapegoat. He wanted to find a scapegoat. This was Dao Master Ao Lai's first reaction, and the most suitable candidate was undoubtedly the undefeated General Mo Wei who was standing behind him. However, just as this thought rose in Ao Lai's mind, it was extinguished by himself. If Dao Master Mo Wei was not the first to discover that something was wrong and rush to the rescue in time, under the attack of Chu Xuanqing's blazing sky incinerating flames, perhaps the loss would not be as simple as the 7 transformed demon cultivators. Moreover, when Tao Master Mo Wei discovered that something was wrong, he shouted out loud. At that time, many of the demon cultivators present heard it. If Tao Master Mo Wei became the scapegoat, then wouldn't Tao Master Ao Lai, who did not react at that time, be even more incompetent? Reverend Lu Hai saw that the battle against Huangli Island had just begun and the cultivators on his side had already suffered such a huge loss. He also saw the entire scene just now. It was obvious that Ao Lai didn't listen to Reverend Mo Wei's advice, and when it happened, it was Ao Lai's slow reaction which delayed the rescue. Reverend Lu Hai saw that Tao Master Ao Lai was standing there with an ashen face, and Tao Master Mo Wei seemed to have turned into a wooden man. He thought that Tao Master Mo Wei no longer wanted to help Tao Master Ao Lai, so he looked down on Tao Master Ao Lai even more. Seeing that more than 20 core forging cultivators had gathered in the sky above Huangli Island and Tao Master Ao Lai was still standing there indifferently, Reverend Lu Hai became anxious. His words became more hurried and he said, "Why hasn't Manor Master Ao Lai given the order? Do you still want to give the enemy a buffer?" Hearing this, Tao Master Ao Lai suddenly turned his head to look at Reverend Lu Hai. His eyes were red and emitted an ominous glint. Reverend Lu Hai's heart skipped a beat, and he actually didn't dare to meet Tao Master Ao Lai's eyes. Only now did he realize that his words were somewhat inappropriate. If he offended this person, it would be very bad. Although the two of them had the same cultivation level, Ao Lai was still from the primordial crocodile clan. Although Reverend Lu Hai's strength had greatly improved after advancing to the late core forging stage, he still didn't have the confidence to deal with the primordial crocodile clan. Just when Reverend Lu Hai was thinking whether he should find an opportunity to give in, Reverend Lu Hai suddenly smiled and said, "Brother Lu Hai is right. This time, I will help Brother Mo Wei to entangle Chu Xuanqing. The remaining cultivators on the island will have to rely on Brother Lu Hai's strength, especially those 2 young cultivators from Zhenling. They actually have a cultivation level of the 4th layer of core forging stage. It seems that in Zhenling, they are people with the same status as Lu Xianping. These 2 people must die." Although Reverend Lu Hai was a little surprised by the change in Ao Lai's attitude, he didn't think too much about it. He nodded and said, "I will do my best." Reverend Ao Lai nodded with satisfaction and began to arrange for the attack on the island. Only Reverend Mo Wei looked at the complacent Reverend Lu Hai with a somewhat complicated expression. In the end, he didn't say anything and followed Ao Lai. After the expansion of Huangli Island, not only did the area of the island increase from a radius of more than 10 li to a radius of more than 30 li, but the number of cultivators gathered on the island also increased. This would be a great help in times of crisis. Moreover, the number of small spirit veins on the island had increased to 6, making the island's protective array more solid and stable. After the last siege of Huangli Island, the monster race cultivators learned their lesson and no longer blindly attacked the island's protective array. Instead, more than 20 core forging stage monster cultivators arranged a simple demon soldier formation in the sky, ready to break the array with the formation. Soon, the entire Huangli Island was drowned by the sound of explosions, and the protective array of Huangli Island began to tremble violently. This time, the monster race no longer concentrated on attacking one point of the array. This was because the Jinling experts on the island were not like the previous time, but more than 10 core forging stage monster cultivators had gathered together. Among them, there were veteran core forging stage monster cultivators like Chu Xuanqing, as well as the 2 core forging stage monster cultivators like Fang Kai and a group of core forging stage monster cultivators at the early core forging stage. If they continued to attack like the previous time, they would only be adding food to the island's Jinling cultivators. Listening to the core forging stage monster cultivators outside the island attacking the island's protective array, Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing frowned and scolded. "This group of beasts has learned to be smart. They have made up their minds. Even if it takes a long time, they will wait for the array to completely collapse before attacking together." Chu Xuanqing looked at Yin Xianchu behind him with some worry. Ever since the news of Taoist Master Mysterious Yin's death came, Yin Xianchu became more and more silent, but the chill on his body grew stronger day by day. Ji Xianxian said with a smile, "Martial uncle, don't worry. I just received that little turtle and brought it in, and senior sister who has already brought the things he brought into senior brother Lu's cultivation room. I believe that senior brother Lu will return to Huangli Island in a short moment. Wouldn't that mean that we've gained another great combat strength? However, Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing was not so optimistic. He said, I have already seen the situation outside when we attacked just now. This time, not only in Mo Wei, Lu Hai has also advanced to the late core forging stage, and there is also a primordial giant crocodile in the late core forging stage. At that time, as long as the two of them join forces to hold me back, I will be able to defeat all of you. Although martial nephew Lu's strength far surpasses cultivators of the same level, I'm afraid that it is still not enough to fight against a late core forging stage cultivator. After all, only a late core forging stage cultivator can understand the huge gap between the middle and late core forging stage cultivators. This time, Ji Xinxian did not speak, because even he himself was not confident. In Zhenling, only late core forging stage cultivators were a special group that could truly participate in the sect's decision-making with Dharma phase Laozu. In the other sects in the North Sea, this situation was basically the same. However, the other sects had sect masters in charge of everything, and late core forging stage cultivators mostly participated in the sect's affairs as the sect's elders. From this, one could see the status of late core forging stage cultivators in the North Sea's cultivation world. Status itself was often fought for by strength. Therefore, late core forging stage cultivators had always formed their own group in the cultivation world and were separated from early and middle core forging stage cultivators. Yao Yong, who was at the side, thought for a moment and said, "Why don't we ask for help from Dikuan Island?" Martial Uncle Xin Chong, who is guarding Dikuan Island, is also a late core forging stage cultivator, and the strength of Dikuan Island is much stronger than Huangli Island. Before Yao Yong could finish his words, he saw Shi Lingling, who was at the side, roll her eyes at him. Yao Yong knew that he had probably made a stupid suggestion, so he immediately chuckled and did not speak. Spiritual Master Chu Xuanqing looked at his disciple helplessly. He was too lazy to be angry with him. Shi Lingling said directly, since the demon race came to besiege Huangli Island, then the demon race must have left behind some forces to restrain Dikuan Island, which is quite close to here. Martial Uncle Xin Chong will not take the risk for Huangli Island. Spiritual Master Chu nodded and said, the leader of the demon race on Dikuan Island is called Aoli. He is a late core forging stage expert of the primordial giant crocodile clan. Hearing that it was a late core forging stage primordial giant crocodile, everyone fell silent. As a top-tier demon beast, the primordial giant crocodile's innate strength was often superior to other cultivators of the same level. Spiritual Master Xuanqing was only at the 8th layer of core forging stage. Aoli was also a very famous demon beast in the North Sea cultivation world, but Spiritual Master Xuanqing could only rely on Dikuan Island's defensive formation to fight against Aoli. At this time, Qinlian also said, how about we continue to maintain the island's defensive formation so that it does not collapse? The demon race will not be besieging Huangli Island for too long. Once the siege on Tianling Mountain is lifted, our sect will be free, and the demon race cultivators will definitely retreat. Zhong Jian asked with some hesitation, can they hold on for that long? How many high-grade spirit stones would it take to make up for the loss of the spirit vein? I just don't know how the battle on Tianling Mountain is going. If Huangli Island falls, then Xinling's sect will be the demon race's accomplice. Spiritual Master Chu said without hesitation, Xinling's sect will not be able to gain any advantage. Tianling Mountain will not be besieged for too long. However, blindly defending is not a solution. We must fight with the demon race cultivators and make them feel pain and fear. Only then can Huangli Island stand firm in the outer endless sea. At this time, in Lu Ping's cultivation room, Hu Lily finally confirmed the location of the teleportation formation that Lu Ping had set up in the deep sea demon territory through the formation plate brought back by Lu Dagui. After placing the formation plate in the teleportation formation, the deep sea demon territory and Huangli Island were finally connected. A white light flashed in the cultivation room, gradually blinding everyone's eyes. After the white light flashed, Hu Lily blinked her eyes and saw Lu Ping standing in front of her with a grin. Hu Lily's eyes curved into a pair of crescent moons as she softly said, You're back? Lu Ping nodded his head and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Hu Lily giggled and said, "What dangerous place did I get trapped in this time? Why did I need Dague's help to use the teleportation formation to return?" When Lu Ping saw that Hu Lily was about to erase the formation on the ground, Lu Ping stopped her and said, "Just remove the formation plate. This formation may be useful in the future." Chapter 465. Tian Kong Laozu's unexpected appearance was like a bolt from the blue. Not only did it stun Yuan Guang Laozu, who was standing in front of Tianling Mountain, but even the Xianling Laozu, who was fighting in the void above Tianling Mountain, panicked. At this moment, Jinling Laozu was also unwilling to continue fighting. Both sides seemed to have a tacit understanding, and each of them clashed head-on in the void. The dull sound caused the entire North Sea to shake. After that, the Laozu from the two sects in the sky also slowly descended. Dao Sheng Laozu, who was originally fighting against Tian Shui and Tian Fan, was calm and composed. However, after descending, he saw that Tian Kong Laozu did not look like he was about to die. Not only that, this mid-Dharma stage cultivation was like a sharp sword that pierced Dao Sheng Laozu's eyes. The moment he saw Tian Kong Laozu, Dao Sheng Laozu no longer had the calm and composed demeanor he had before. Finally, his expression became unusually ugly. Jinling 4 Mid-Dharma Stage Laozu. Ever since Fei Ling sect was annihilated 4,000 years ago, the North Sea cultivation world had a short period of prosperity for 1,000 years. However, after this 1,000 years, including Xianling sect, the various sects in the North Sea had not had a grand occasion of having 4 mid-Dharma stage Laozu in one sect for almost 3,000 years. Compared to Dao Sheng Laozu, Tian Fan and Tian Shui Laozu's expressions were much worse. Tian Kong Laozu greeted his two seniors. Both of them smiled bitterly. Tian Fan Laozu said, "Originally, I wanted to keep junior brother hidden for a period of time. I didn't expect that this secret would be exposed so soon." Upon hearing this, the Xianling sect almost had the urge to kill someone. Feng Shutao's face was flushed. He was still immersed in the intense battle he just had with Tianjiang Laozu. Even though the battle ended in a draw, Feng Shutao was hundreds of years behind Tianjiang Laozu, which gave Feng Shutao the confidence to cultivate. Among all the Laozu present, the one with the worst expression was Dao Yin Laozu. In this battle, Dao Yin Laozu didn't have the slightest advantage. On the contrary, Zhang Tianlin and Lu Tianling had the upper hand. However, what made him the most furious was that Tian Kong Laozu was actually standing in front of him and scathed. Back then, the defeated opponent that he had forced to use a divine ability that consumed his life and was on the verge of death was now a mid-stage Laozu who was on the same level as him. How could this be? How could this be? Dao Yin knew all too well about the injuries that Tian Kong Laozu had sustained in the past. There was no way for him to recover. What method did Jinling use, and what price did he pay, to not only heal Tian Kong Laozu's injuries, but also advance to the mid-stage Dharma stage? At this moment, besides Jinling and the other Laozu, this was the biggest question in the minds of all the North Sea sect's Laozu, who was watching the battle from the surrounding void. All these questions were focused on the various longevity pills that Jinling had collected in the North Sea. However, among all the Laozu present, the one who was the most disheveled was not Dao Yin Laozu, but Dao Li Laozu, whose clothes had been burned with a few holes. At this moment, Dao Li Laozu's reaction to Tian Kong Laozu's appearance was the least intense. He stared fixedly at the sky cauldron opposite him and the three-legged cauldron in Laozu's hand. Jinling also had his own magic elixir cauldron, and from the looks of it, its quality was even higher than Xianling sect's sea-boiling cauldron. From now on, Xianling sect was not the only sect in the North Sea to have a magic elixir cauldron. Because of this magic elixir cauldron, Xianling sect had once gained all the advantages in the North Sea training world. When many Laozu cultivated Dharma elixirs, because of the value of these elixirs, in order to increase the success rate, these Laozu had no choice but to seek help from Xianling sect's sea-boiling cauldron. Xianling sect had always agreed readily, and at the same time, the treasures that Laozu from the various sects had been especially painful for them. Now that Jinling also had a magic elixir cauldron, Xianling's sect's advantage would undoubtedly be reduced once again. Jinling and Xianling's sect stood side by side. Yuan Guanglaozu hesitated for a while, but in the end, he did not openly stand on Xianling's sect's side. He still had to act as a fair and just person in front of the North Sea training world, not interfering with the affairs of the North Sea training world, even though this image had been seen through by almost everyone when he attacked Jinling's sect-protecting formation. I also have to congratulate Brother Tiankong for passing the early Dharma stage and advancing to the mid-Dharma stage. From now on, the strength of the human race in the North Sea training world has increased once again. The first to speak was still Dao Laozu. Tiankong Laozu did not hesitate and returned the salute calmly. He said, "Senior Brother Dao Shang, you flatter me." Tiankong merely escaped from death. After the two of them finished speaking, both sides fell silent again. Tian Fanlaozu suddenly said, "Disciple Xianin tried to assassinate Dao Shi, but Disciple Xianin has already fallen. Disciple Xianin has already repaid the karma, but Huangli Island being controlled by our sect is the safest strategy. What do you think, Senior Brother Dao Sheng?" Dao Sheng Laozu snorted coldly and did not reply. The meaning of Tian Fan Laozu's words was very clear. First, in reality, Xianling's sect had already lost this battle when Tian Kong Laozu suddenly appeared. Before Jinling had a new mid-Dharma or late Dharma Laozu, Jinling's strength had in fact already surpassed Xianling's sect's. Second, for the sake of the human race in the North Sea training world, Huangli Island should be handed over to Jinling to manage, which was the safest strategy. However, Daoxian Laozu could not admit it. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to handing over Huangli Island. Now that Jinling was powerful, Xianling's sect could not do anything about it. However, Dao Sheng Laozu had to leave an excuse to recapture Huangli Island in the future. Otherwise, Dao Sheng Laozu's reputation would be tarnished. At this time, Yuan Guang Laozu, who was standing at the side, laughed and said, "Forget about your sect Xianin immortal, but his son is a bastard born from the union of a human and a demon. Since ancient times, humans and demons cannot coexist. This person must not be allowed to live in this world. I believe that your sect also does not want to have the reputation of colluding with the demon race, right?" Tian Shui Laozu had already tolerated Yuan Guang Laozu for a long time. Hearing this, she immediately said sternly, "Don't go too far. Disciple Xuanin's son grew up in our sect. How could he have any relations with the demon race? It's better for you not to be so ruthless." Yuan Guang Laozu, on the other hand, said seriously, "The grudges between the human and demon race have been going on for a long time. For tens of thousands of years, how many human cultivators have died in the hands of the demon race? Their descendants, relatives, and friends all hate the demon race to the core. I believe that your friends from your sect should know about this very well. If they knew that your sect actually protected a bastard born from the union of a human and a demon, how would your sect deal with it? At least, my Crystal Palace will never allow such a ridiculous thing to happen." Yuan Guang Laozu's first sentence was reasonable, but the last sentence was an undisguised danger. Everyone present, including Laozu, knew what kind of a colossus the Crystal Palace was. Don't think that Jinling's four middle Dharma Laozu could force Xianling's sect, who had Dao Shang, to retreat. However, in the eyes of the Crystal Palace, they were not even worth mentioning. The Crystal Palace dominated the East Sea. Its strength was not something that the sects in the North Sea could fathom. Tian Shui Laozu was so angry that she was speechless. Although she was not angry at Yuan Guang Laozu for using his power to oppress others and taking it out on a third-generation disciple, she knew the severity of the situation. Currently, the relationship between the human and demon race was very tense. The Crystal Palace behind Yuan Guang Laozu represented the righteousness of the overseas human race fighting against the demon race. Jinling could not bear the crime of colluding with the demon race at this moment. Yuan Guang Laozu smiled proudly and said, "I believe that your sect will make the right choice." After saying that, Yuan Guang Laozu laughed and disappeared in front of Tianling Mountain. Seeing this, Dao Sheng Laozu said expressionlessly, "If that's the case, today's matter will end here." Looking at the retreating Xianling sect, Jinling Laozu did not force Xianling sect to retreat at all. In fact, He announced the joy of Jinling becoming the #1 sect in the North Sea. Tianling Mountain once again returned to its previous state. However, the cultivators in Jinling who had witnessed this battle were extremely excited. The four Middle Dharma Realm Laozu. At this moment, everyone knew that Jinling had in fact already possessed the strength to surpass Xianling sect. The entire Tianling Mountain was filled with a kind of joy, vitality, and vitality. This kind of atmosphere was rapidly spreading to the various islands under Jinling's jurisdiction through the teleportation array. However, in contrast to the enthusiastic atmosphere in Jinling, at this moment, in the Qimei Palace on the peak of Tianling Mountain, Zhang Tianlin and Lu Tianling were standing on the left and right of the palace gate, as if they were waiting for someone. At this moment, the two of them were deeply moved. The void in front of them rippled, and a youthful face and white hair Laozu had already appeared in front of the two of them. The two of them hurriedly bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, Master Cang Qiong of the Sea Fire Sect. Master Tianfan, Master Tianxue, and Master Tiankong are already waiting in the palace. Please come in and have some tea." The youthful face and white hair of the Sea Fire Sect, Cang Qiong Laozu, laughed and said, "All right, then I'll have to trouble you for a while. At the same time, I also wish Brother Tiankong a blessing in disguise." Cang Qiong Laozu slowly walked into the Qimei Palace, while Zhang Tianlin and Lu Tianling continued to stand at the gate as boys to welcome guests. Soon after, Jade Sword Laozu of the Jade Sword sect also cut through the void and descended on Tianling Mountain. This was also a mid-Dharma Laozu, so Zhang Tianlin and Lu Tianling did not dare to be negligent and still went forward to greet him. After a while, the mid-Dharma Laozu of the Shuiyin Pavilion, Chongming sect, and Songhai sect also rushed over, followed by the few large sects and independent family forces of the North Sea. They were all welcomed into the Qimei Palace by the two of them. Just when Zhang Tianlin and Lu Tianling thought that no one would come, the void in front of them flashed again, and another person appeared. Zhang Tianlin and Lu Tianling were surprised, but they did not say much. They raised their hands to greet the other party, then walked into the Qimei Palace together. On Huangli Island, just as Lu Ping returned through the teleportation portal, the entire island seemed to have experienced an earthquake. There was a violent tremor, followed by a sound that seemed to tear the entire sky apart. All kinds of earth-shattering battle cries accompanied by all kinds of strange beast roars and bird cries rang out. The rumbling of spells and the clashing of treasures and instruments resounded throughout the universe. Hu Lily exclaimed, "Oh no, the protective array of Huangli Island has been breached by the demon clan." Chapter 466. Lu Ping left Lu Dagui in the cultivation room to consolidate his cultivation. After thinking about it, he also left Samling here to guard the cave residence and protect Lu Dagui's cultivation. Hu Lily asked hesitantly, "With Samling's current cultivation, he will be a great help to you. Why don't you let him fight?" As Lu Ping walked out, he said, "Samling's identity has been exposed once in the deep sea demon region. Now that the primordial giant crocodile is here, it will definitely recognize the identity of the green sea snake. Once Samling's identity is exposed again, not only will the demon clan know that I broke into the deep sea demon region, but I'm afraid that the human clan will also investigate Samling's identity." Hu Lily said worriedly, "Then what should we do? The identity of the three spirits will be revealed one day. Wouldn't it be worse if the Emerald Sea Spirit Snake clan interfered?" The green sea snakes were like giants in the East Sea and the Crystal Palace. Even the primordial giant crocodile was no match for them. Lu Ping was silent for a moment and said, "There will be a way." At this time, after the protective formation over Huangli Island was broken, the human clan practitioners and the demon clan practitioners were already fighting. In the sky, on the island, and in the sea, there were battlefields between the two clans. Most of the buildings on Huangli Island that Lu Ping had worked hard to manage had been destroyed. The so-called island guarding formation was not like a tortoise shell that could only be attacked by human enemies. On the contrary, it was like a city wall managed by mortals. When attacked by enemies, not only could it protect them, but the human cultivators protected by the formation could also use the protection of the formation to launch counterattacks against the demon clan outside the formation. But this time, The number of Demon Clan practitioners attacking Huangli Island was far more than before. In addition to the 3 late-core Forging Realm cultivators leading the team, there were 8 mid-core Forging Realm cultivators and 13 early-core Forging Realm cultivators. In addition, there were 7 or 8 Crown Prince's party members who were seriously injured by Chu Xuanqing and the others, and 5 or 6 unharmed Crown Prince's party members. It was just that they were frightened and did not participate in the attack on the protective formation until the protective formation was broken. Seeing that the Demon Clan had gained the upper hand, they joined forces to kill a few blood condensation realm human cultivators and became arrogant again. When Lu Ping and Hu Lili arrived, they saw Zheng Jie being beaten up by a group of Crown Prince's party members. She was vomiting blood and falling from the sky. A core Forging Realm's second-layer Demon Clan cultivator roared excitedly and rushed towards Zheng Jie, who had fallen to the ground. Zheng Jie was Hu Lili's best friend. Seeing her friend in trouble, Hu Lili quickly flew towards the place where Zheng Jie fell, but it was already too late. Seeing that Zheng Jie was about to die, Hu Lili suddenly heard a sharp whistling sound behind her. A long whip that looked like flowing water cut through the void. Before the whistling sound reached the Demon Clan's ears, the water whip had already lashed the Demon Clan cultivator into 2. Pa! The crisp sound of the Demon Clan cultivator's flesh and blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, it also startled the 5 or 6 Demon Clan cultivators who had just taken human form. The confidence that they had built up from slaughtering low-level human cultivators suddenly collapsed. Lu Ping's core Forging Realm pressure spread out. These 5 or 6 Demon Clan cultivators who looked like debauches suddenly shouted and retreated far away from Huangli Island. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't waste his time on these cowards. Hu Lili had already flown over and rescued Zheng Jie. However, Zheng Jie had already suffered serious injuries. From the looks of it, it would be impossible for her to fully recover without 2 to 3 years of recuperation. Lu Ping saw Hu Lili hurriedly take out a bottle of healing pills, so he handed a water-refined healing pill to Hu Lili and said, "Water-refined pills have a miraculous effect on healing injuries. You take good care of her. If anyone comes, use the amethyst wasp formation to greet them. I'll go to another place to fight for a while." Hu Lili nodded and said, "You be careful. I'm now a core Forging Realm cultivator. With the amethyst wasp formation, it won't be easy for a mid-stage core Forging Realm cultivator to kill me." Hu Lili majored in formations. Only in her hands could the amethyst wasp formation display a greater power. The human cultivators on Huangli Island were now clearly at a disadvantage. Although Lu Ping's group of good friends unintentionally came to Huangli Island because of him, there were only 12 to 13 people, including Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing. Also, because Huangli Island had become more and more important these years, there were already core Forging Realm cultivators coming and going on the island. When the war broke out, there were a few core Forging Realm cultivators on the island. They originally planned to go out to explore a dangerous place, but now they just happened to become a great helper in resisting the demon race's invasion. In the sky, Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing had already been jointly blocked by Taoist Master Mo Wei and Taoist Master Ao Lai. Although Taoist Master Ao Lai was only at the 7th stage of core Forging Realm, because he was from the primordial giant crocodile clan, his strength was enough to fight against an 8th stage core Forging Realm cultivator. Ji Xian and In Xian Chu had a tacit understanding with each other. Their cultivations had both broken through to the middle stage of core Forging Realm. The remaining mid-stage blood condensation realm cultivators had no choice but to fend off the attacks of the various demonic beasts. Feng Wei, Feng Xia, Wang Qi, and Tian Yu formed a small team. Among the 4 of them, only Tian Yu had yet to break through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Feng Wei and Feng Xia had just fought a 6th-layer blood condensation realm demonic beast together when Wang Qi suddenly attacked from the side, piercing the demonic beast's head with his sword. Feng Wei and Feng Xia looked enviously at the high-grade flying sword in Wang Qi's hand. Feng Xia was even more envious. She said, "I don't know what kind of dog shit luck. You have to be able to help enlighten Master Chen Lian so much. With such a high-grade flying sword, its attack power is probably on par with a top-grade magic artifact." Wang Qi smiled proudly. Tian Yu immediately went forward and dissected the demonic beast's skin and flesh. He then filled a jade bottle with a lot of blood. At the same time, his face lit up with joy. Condensed blood beads. Haha, 6 condensed blood beads. The 3 of them were overjoyed. These 6 sixth-layer condensed blood beads were worth quite a lot of spirit stones. It was enough for them to exchange for a lot of cultivation pills from Feng Wei and Feng Xia's father, Feng Tao. These pills were all made by Grandmaster Lu Xinping, and they were all top-quality pills. Demand for these pills had always been higher than supply. Only Feng Wei and Feng Xia, as Feng Tao's biological children, were able to obtain a portion of these pills from Feng Tao. However, they had to exchange for spirit herbs and materials. Wang Qi looked at Tianyu as he put away the 6 condensed blood beads like they were treasures. He said helplessly, "Tianyu, you've seen Master Lu Xinping practice his swordsmanship in the past. Why is it that even though you've reached the blood condensation realm, your strength is still in a mess? There are more and more demonic beasts swarming into Huangli Island. You have to be careful." Tianyu smiled embarrassedly. With the 4 of them gathered together, Tianyu's strength was pitiful. He could only deal with some blood-refining realm demonic beasts. If he encountered an early blood condensation realm demonic beast, he would be beaten to a pulp. He even needed Wang Qi and the others to help him. At this time, a late blood condensation realm demonic beast suddenly appeared on Huangli Island. It was a demonic beast that was half a step into the human form. It charged towards Wang Qi and the others. Wang Qi's face changed when he saw that there were demonic beasts all around them. "This is bad. Let's fight to the death." Tianyu was so scared that his face turned pale. Suddenly, he thought of something and took out a jade bottle from his storage bag. He opened the lid and scattered the contents inside. 8 black pills emitted a strong fragrance and landed beside the late blood condensation realm demonic beast. Feng Wei, who was standing beside Tianyu, took 2 deep breaths and his stomach growled. Feng Xia and Wang Qi did the same. Feng Xia's face turned red. She turned around and glared at Tianyu. "What kind of pills are these? What are you doing?" Before Feng Xia could finish her sentence, a chaotic roar sounded in front of them. Feng Xia and the others, who often went out to sea to hunt demonic beasts, knew that this was the cry of a demonic beast before its death. The 3 of them looked over and saw 8 mid and early blood condensation realm demonic beasts rushing towards the late blood condensation realm demonic beast. The late blood condensation realm demonic beast was enraged and knocked 3 demonic beasts away. However, the other demonic beasts were still rushing towards it. The late blood condensation realm demonic beast was enraged and immediately attacked. It tore apart 2 demonic beasts that were charging at it. This time, the other demonic beasts seemed to have come to an agreement. They roared and charged at the late blood condensation realm demonic beast together. 8 to 9 demonic beasts clashed, and Feng Wei and the others were dumbfounded. Wang Qi turned to Tianyu and asked, "What's going on?" "It's the pills you scattered just now, right?" Feng Wei and Feng Xia were also shocked. Tianyu smiled proudly and said, "This is called the starving swallowing pill. I exchanged hundreds of century-old spiritual herbs from immortal Master Feng for the recipe. It's the most effective for mid and early blood condensation realm demonic beasts. It can make them feel the most primitive hunger and lose their minds. However, these pills are useless against late blood condensation realm demonic beasts." Wang Qi looked at Tianyu in shock and said, "You can actually concoct pills. What grade is the starving swallowing pill? How come I've never heard of it?" Tianyu chuckled and said, "I'm still an apprentice alchemist. The starving swallowing pill is the only late blood condensation realm pill I've successfully concocted. The starving swallowing pill is a special pill, but I didn't expect it to have such an effect." Feng Wei and Feng Xia looked at each other. They didn't know when their father obtained this pill recipe. However, when they thought about how their father was entrusted by enlightened Master Lu Xinping to help enlightened Master who managed Huangli Island's market, it was normal for him to have some strange items. Feng Wei seemed to have thought of something and said in shock, "You need a cauldron to concoct pills, right? You even have a cauldron?" A cauldron was like a debeo shell to a blood condensation realm cultivator. It was like a cauldron to a grandmaster alchemist. Jinling wanted to train alchemists, but apprentices weren't qualified to own a cauldron. If they wanted to practice, they had to go to the Pill Pavilion and use the Sex Cauldron. There were many restrictions. Tianyu stayed on Huangli Island all year round. Everyone knew that Tianyu had never been to Tianling Mountain. Tianyu didn't dare to go out to sea to hunt demonic beasts. He only relied on the spiritual fields on the island to earn spirit stones. It was extremely difficult for him to buy a cauldron. Tianyu scratched his head embarrassedly and said, "I rented the cauldron from Senior Fong Tao. It's a low-grade cauldron. The rental fee is very high." Senior Fong Tao charged half of the pills I concoct. Fong Xia snorted and said, "Be content. Since it's rented to you, you must have it with you and can use it at any time. It's no different from owning a cauldron. Have you seen any apprentice alchemists in our sect who can use a cauldron to practice at any time like you?" Tianyu laughed foolishly and didn't say anything else. Right at this time, Wang Qi said happily, "All right, these late blood condensation demonic beasts have both suffered heavy injuries. Let's join forces and see if we can kill this injured 8th layer blood condensation's demonic beast." In the blink of an eye, Lu Ping and the two mid-stage core forging demonic beasts circled half a circle in the sky. When they saw Chen Lian, they raised the water whip in their hands and lashed it at the mid-stage core forging demonic beast that was fighting with Chen Lian and his junior brother. The demonic beast was entangled with Chen Lian and Wang Qi. By the time they realized that they couldn't dodge Lu Ping's sneak attack, they could only try their best to avoid being hit in their vitals and dodge to the side. Pa! Another crisp sound rang out. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The demonic beast's protective energy barrier had already shattered, and there was an inch-deep whip mark on its back. The demonic beast let out a mournful howl. When Chen Lian raised his head and saw Lu Ping, his face lit up with joy. With a flick of his wrist, he threw a golden sword towards Lu Ping. The golden sword flew in the air and seemed to notice Lu Ping's presence. Immediately, a joyful sword cry rang out. Lu Ping smiled and turned around. The golden scale sword trembled and spun behind Lu Ping. It stopped above Lu Ping's head and pointed at the two mid-stage core forging demonic beasts chasing after Lu Ping. Chapter 467. Chen Lian had taken the golden scale sword to Sage Enigma Flame to refine the 5th psychic barrier. After returning to Huangli Island, Lu Ping learned from Hu Lily that the golden scale sword had been upgraded. However, to Lu Ping's surprise, Sage Enigma Flame had been helping his master, Tian Ling Laozu, guard the spirit mine on Frost Island. At the same time, he was in charge of discovering the rich spiritual materials under Frost Island. That was why he had never been in the artifact refining hall. Chen Lian had no choice but to beg the other martial uncles of the artifact refining hall. Unexpectedly, Tian Jiang Laozu happened to run into him. When he heard that it was Lu Ping's magic treasure, Tian Jiang Laozu took the golden scale sword and successfully refined the 5th psychic barrier in no time. As his divine sense swept across the golden scale sword, Lu Ping could clearly sense that the first 2 ordinary barriers were clearly different from the last 3. These were the barriers that Lu Ping had obtained when he obtained the golden scale sword. They were the methods of the Yao clan's artifact refiners. The 3rd ordinary barrier was much more immature. It was refined with Chen Lian's help. The traces of the 4th psychic barrier were very heavy. Under the perception of Lu Ping's divine sense, the flickering psychic barrier perfectly integrated with Lu Ping's divine sense, allowing Lu Ping to inject more true essence into the golden scale sword and display more powerful swordsmanship. However, compared to the newly refined 5th psychic barrier, the 4th barrier was like the bright moon meeting the blazing sun. If the 4th psychic barrier seemed to have a life of its own and could automatically absorb the true essence that Lu Ping had injected into the golden scale sword, the 5th psychic barrier was like a taotai. Before Lu Ping could display his swordsmanship, it let out a hungry roar as if it could not wait to devour Lu Ping's true essence and fight to its heart's content. The means of a Grandmaster artifact refiner were truly extraordinary. Lu Ping's first move was a torrent of swordsmanship that rushed towards the 2 mid-core forging realm demonic cultivators. The expressions of the 2 demon cultivators who had thought that Lu Ping was afraid to fight instantly changed drastically. With their cultivation bases, how could they not see the absolute power contained in Lu Ping's sword technique? The two demon cultivators couldn't care less about anything else. They wielded their respective magic treasures and attacked the torrent of sword techniques together, intending to completely break it. However, the power of the golden scale sword, which had condensed the fifth psychic restriction, had greatly increased. Although the two demon cultivators had joined hands to barely break the torrent of sword techniques unleashed by Lu Ping, they were pushed back hundreds of feet in midair by the tremendous force. The two Yao cultivators' faces were pale with fear. It was obvious that Lu Ping's attack had consumed a lot of their true essence. One of the Yao cultivators seemed to think of something and exclaimed, You're Jinling Lu Xianping." Lu Ping, on the other hand, didn't expect his reputation to be so great. He smiled strangely at the beast cultivator. The Yao cultivator who recognized Lu Ping looked at Lu Ping's strange smile and seemed to find something wrong. However, as soon as this thought came to his mind, the sound of his protective aura shattering came from behind. The Yao cultivator felt a chill down his spine and hurriedly dodged to the other side. Then, he felt a chill on his left leg. When he looked down, a faint blue light flashed. His left leg had been cut off from the thigh, and blood sprayed to the ground like a fountain. The Yao cultivator let out a long, mournful hiss, turned around and fled out of Huangli Island. Seeing this, the other Yao cultivator knew that he was no match for Lu Ping, so he hurriedly retreated in the direction of Taoist Lu Hai. Lu Ping was about to meet this Taoist Lu Hai. Just now, Lu Ping's divine sense could already sense that Ji Xianxian and Yin Xianchu had reached their limits. As for the other Taoist Lu Hai, he had seen Taoist Lu Hai in the true spirit side courtyard competition. He had accumulated more experience. Although he had suffered a small loss at the beginning, he still had some strength left. Taoist Lu Hai had received the warning from the other Yao cultivator and obviously knew that Lu Xianping had appeared. Towards this human cultivator who had once brought him humiliation, Taoist Lu Hai had long wanted to kill him. He immediately left Taoist Lu Hai and the other two and flew in the direction of Lu Ping. The Yao cultivator who flew towards Taoist Lu Hai to report was originally planning to seek Taoist Lu Hai's protection. Unexpectedly, when Taoist Lu Hai discovered Lu Ping, he turned around and went to meet him. This caused the Yao cultivator, who had been exhausted by Lu Ping's torrent of sword technique, to be unable to catch up to Taoist Lu Hai's footsteps. Thus, Yin Xianchu and the other two, who were rescued by Lu Ping, surrounded the Yao cultivator. The desperate Yao cultivator struggled on his deathbed. While Taoist Lu Hai and Lu Ping were fighting, the Yao cultivator let out an unwilling wail and fell from the sky onto Huangli Island, dead. In every war, there was no lack of cunning cultivators. For example, Dabeo was a late blood condensation realm demonic beast, but he had never fought a blood-refining realm demonic beast head-on. He had only participated in battles using some sneaky methods. This time was the same. For example, Songwu, who had received a favor from Lu Ping in the past, and his 5 mid-blood condensation companions worked together to kill a group of demonic beasts led by a late blood condensation realm demonic beast. That late blood condensation realm demonic beast was about to lead the other demonic beasts in a charge when it suddenly collided with an earthen wall that rose from the ground. After breaking through the earthen wall, the demonic beast suddenly felt its body becoming heavier, as if a weight several times its original weight was pressing down on it. The demonic beast naturally didn't care about this, but before it could take 2 steps, its feet suddenly sank, and half of its body was caught in a crack in the ground. The demonic beast struggled with all its might, and Songwu and his companions were overjoyed to see this. They took the opportunity to kill 6 or 7 mid-blood condensation demonic beasts, along with the late blood condensation realm demonic beast. His companions then happily collected the spiritual materials from the demonic beast's body. However, when they were about to dissect the body of the late blood condensation realm demonic beast, they discovered that the demonic beast's heart had been dug out. The residual arcane energy waves inside clearly told them that the demonic beast didn't have the time to self-destruct its condensed blood bead before it died. In other words, the condensed blood bead had already been taken by someone else. Songwu smiled bitterly and said, "Let's remove the demonic beast's skin first. We'll take the other useful things if we can." The youngest female cultivator among the companions said with dissatisfaction, Who is this? How dare they steal our spoils of war? Songwoo put his index finger in front of his mouth and made a shushing gesture. He said, "Who else could it be? This is enlightened Master Lu's subordinate, Treasure Master. Didn't you see that the demonic beast fell into the crack in the ground?" The little female cultivator also made an exaggerated gesture of fear and said, "It's him? Rumor has it that Treasure Master runs an underground palace on Huangli Island. The palace is connected to all directions, and it is filled with treasures that Treasure Master has collected from enlightened Master Lu all these years. I wonder if it's true?" Songwoo shook his head and said, "Why do you believe this too? It's just a rumor." In fact, Songwoo also believed this rumor. When he patrolled the island with Jinling's disciples, he had seen a few sneaky cultivators digging deep holes on Huangli Island, as if they were looking for something. On the other side of Huangli Island, Wang Qi and the others finally got their hands on the heavily injured 8th layer blood condensation demonic beast. Just as they were about to reap the spoils of war, they turned their heads and realized that 4 of the 8 mid-blood condensation demonic beasts that were killed by the late blood condensation demonic beast were missing. Wang Qi and the others looked at each other. Feng Xia unhappily shouted in a direction, "Treasure Master, aren't you being too disloyal? You didn't even do anything this time, so how can you take 4 demonic beast corpses?" Feng Xia's dissatisfaction seemed to make Treasure Master, who was hiding somewhere, feel ashamed. Not far away from the 4, the soil on the ground was flipped up, and a demonic beast corpse appeared in front of everyone. Feng Xia walked over and kept the demonic beast corpse. She said unwillingly, 3 is too many, Treasure Master. You are too greedy." Treasure Master, who was hiding somewhere, thought for a moment and seemed to feel that something was wrong. The soil was flipped up again, and another demonic beast corpse was released. This time, it appeared a few meters behind Feng Xia. Feng Xia was overjoyed, but she still pretended to be angry and said, 1, Treasure Master. For the sake of enlightened being Lu, you can only take 1. But this time, no matter what Feng Xia said, there was no more movement from the ground. Wang Qi saw that Feng Xia was still trying to reason with Treasure Master, who was hiding somewhere. So he smiled and said, "Forget it, Treasure Master is probably long gone. Everyone, take advantage of the fact that there are no demonic beasts coming, and quickly recover your energy." After the demonic cultivator who was fighting with Chen Lian and Lu Ping was seriously injured by Lu Ping's water whip, Chen Lian and Lu Ping finally seized the opportunity and completely suppressed it. At this time, the demonic cultivator who was about to retreat was blocked by Hu Lily, who rushed over with the purple crystal bee formation. The 3 of them worked together to seriously injure the demonic cultivator, and in the end, Chen Lian seized the opportunity to behead him. Chen Lian's junior brother, enlightened being Xian Tao, met Hu Lily under Chen Lian's introduction. He landed on the island and wanted to take the demonic cultivator's storage artifact as his spoils of war. Unexpectedly, when enlightened being Xian Tao landed on the ground, he made a sound of surprise and exclaimed, "Where did this person's storage artifact go? I clearly saw this person wearing a storage bracelet just now. Why is it gone?" Chun Lian looked at Hu Lily helplessly. Hu Lily's face turned red. She stomped on the ground and scolded, "Debeo, you lazy thing. Quickly hand over the storage artifact." Enlightened being Xian Tao looked around, but he looked at Hu Lily inexplicably. He didn't know who she was talking to. Hu Lily's face became more and more embarrassed. At this time, a fat yellow-haired rat suddenly drilled out of the ground, startling enlightened being Xian Tao and almost attacked. Fortunately, Chun Lian had already expected it and stopped enlightened being Xian Tao in advance, explaining something to him. Enlightened being Xian Tao's face became more and more strange. After the fat rat drilled out, it immediately circled around Hu Lily a few times in a flattering manner. Its mouth was squeaking something. Hu Lily's face sank and said, "No, quickly take it out." The fat rat had no choice but to raise its head. Only then did Chun Lian's junior brother see a storage pouch tied around the fat rat's neck. But because the rat was too fat, a large lump of meat was squeezed together, wrapping the storage pouch in its meat. The fat rat's little head moved, and a storage bracelet fell to the ground. Enlightened being Xian Tao recognized it as the storage artifact of the dead beast cultivator. Hu Lily stretched out her hand and said, "There's more." The fat rat squeaked again, like a big meatball. It circled around Hu Lily twice. No one knew what it was saying, but Hu Lily's face turned red. She spat and said, "Don't talk nonsense." Fat Rat had no choice but to take out a few more ornaments from the storage pouch hanging around his neck. Only then did Taoist Master Xian Tao realize that the ornaments that the dead demon cultivator had been wearing were long gone. Although they were all inconspicuous magic tools, they were still valuable items in the eyes of blood condensation cultivators. Enlightened being Xian Tao was speechless. This method was obviously the 1 meter higher sky. Compared to this beast, he was too unprofessional. Unexpectedly, Hu Lily looked at the anxious fat rat on the ground and didn't retract her hand. "What else is there?" Enlightened being Xian Tao turned to look at his senior brother, then at the corpse on the ground. After a while, he patted his head, and the magic tool in the beast cultivator's hand disappeared. The fat rat seemed to be really anxious this time. It squeaked very loudly, and Hu Lily's face turned red. It seemed that the fat rat said something that made Hu Lily feel very embarrassed. Chunlian's junior brother was a little embarrassed this time. He quickly said, "Since this is senior sister's Tao companion, senior brother Lu's spirit pet, then it's only right that he gets some spoils of war. Senior sister, don't make things difficult for him." When junior brother Chunlian said, "Senior sister's Taoist partner, senior brother Lu," Hu Lily's already red face became even hotter. Fat Rat suddenly became excited and squealed twice, as if to agree with immortal Xian Tao's words. Chunlian seemed to have guessed something. He laughed and scolded the fat rat. "All right, stop acting like a good boy. Hurry up and scram. If you don't leave, then other people will take all the treasures elsewhere." The fat rat suddenly thought of something. It hurriedly lifted its big fat butt, and its little head plunged down. Immediately, it disappeared into the ground. Enlightened being Xian Tao laughed and said, "Senior brother Lu's spirit pet is very spiritual." Hu Lily was embarrassed by Debao's words just now. She didn't want to stay here any longer, so she said, "The situation on the island is still dangerous. I'll have to trouble junior brother to continue helping." Enlightened being Xian Tao quickly said, "We're from the same sect, of course." Hu Lily nodded at Qinlian and hurriedly commanded the purple crystal bee demon soldier formation to fly elsewhere. Her footsteps seemed a little dazed. Suddenly, there was a piercing sound in the sky. The flying sword in Chunlian's hand suddenly trembled. Chunlian's face was a little serious as he looked in the direction of the piercing sound. Enlightened being Xian Tao seemed a little uncertain. He asked Chunlian, "Senior brother, this is?" Chunlian nodded and said in a deep voice, "Great sword technique. I'm afraid junior brother Lu is fighting with the late-stage core forging demon cultivator, Green Sea Sage." Chapter 468. Ever since Lu Ping advanced to the 5th layer of core forging realm, he felt that he had the strength to fight against a late-stage core forging realm cultivator. However, in the deep-sea demon domain, Taoist Master Ao Lai only used a single strike to injure Lu Ping. However, this injury not only did not extinguish Lu Ping's desire to challenge a late-stage core forging realm cultivator, on the contrary, it made him understand his own strength, as well as his grasp of the ability of a late-stage core forging realm cultivator. After all, Taoist Master Ao Lai was a primordial giant crocodile at the 8th layer of core forging realm. Ordinary human race cultivators at the 9th layer of core forging realm could fight against him. Lu Ping was injured in a single strike, and the injury was not serious. In the cultivation world, this could be regarded as very good. When Taoist Master Lu Hai flew towards Lu Ping's fighting spirit also soared. Lu Ping wholeheartedly wanted to fight with a late-stage core forging realm cultivator to test the limits of his strength. This Taoist Master Lu Hai, who was at the 6th layer of core forging realm a few years ago, was undoubtedly a suitable opponent. The two people seemed to have a tacit understanding. The moment they saw each other, they unexpectedly attacked each other at the same time. Lu Ping raised his hand and sprinkled sword lights that filled the sky. while Taoist master Lu Hai also raised his hand and sprinkled green seeds that filled the sky. Each of Lu Ping's sword lights was attached to a seed, and then the seed took root and germinated. At the same time, it absorbed the true essence contained in the sword lights as nourishment. When a sword light was exhausted and disintegrated, a green umbrella-shaped plant floated in the air and slowly swam towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping saw Taoist master Lu Hai's strange magical ability. The golden scale sword lightly hummed in the air, and countless sword lights that were not attached to the green seeds were suddenly collected by the golden scale sword. A sky-piercing sword light shot out from the golden scale sword, piercing towards Taoist master Lu Hai. Taoist master Lu Hai's expression became serious. The umbrella-shaped plants that had already sprouted in the surroundings seemed to be extremely sensitive to the true essence, and immediately stuck to the sword light that was flying towards them. At the same time, they pierced their roots into the sword light, and countless umbrella-shaped green plants were crushed by the sword chi contained in the sword light, and countless green plants rushed up one after another, weakening the sword light bit by bit. However, Lu Ping's true essence was far more vigorous than others. Even though Taoist master Lu Hai used this strange magical ability to weaken Lu Ping's sword light with all his strength, when Lu Ping's true essence sword light broke through the obstruction of these plants, its power was only reduced by 2/3. Enlightened master Lu Hai didn't expect Lu Ping's swordsmanship to be so powerful. He immediately cast out an ebony shield and blocked the weakened true essence sword strike. Lu Ping also didn't expect Taoist Green Sea's magical ability to be so strange. It could absorb the true essence contained in their attacks. While weakening the opponent's attack, it could also turn this magical ability to deal with the opponent. After Taoist Green Sea blocked Lu Ping's true essence sword light, countless umbrella-shaped plants rushed towards Lu Ping. At the same time, the roots of each umbrella-shaped plant extended countless roots, seemingly wanting to pierce into the depths of Lu Ping's skin. Lu Ping's expression changed slightly. He held a small flag in his hand and waved it in all directions. Black light curtains descended from the sky and shrouded Lu Ping in the middle of the light curtains. However, when these plants extended their roots towards these light curtains, Lu Ping immediately felt that the true essence injected into the water control flag was suddenly flowing away at a faster rate. Lu Ping coldly snorted. His protective aura chi suddenly expanded from his body. 6 layers of aura chi combined into one, passing through the black light curtains of the water control flag. Even the umbrella-shaped plants attached to the light curtains were shaken off. However, even more umbrella-shaped plants landed on the expanded aura chi. Their roots pierced into the aura chi. Lu Ping felt like he was a deflating balloon. However, Lu Ping immediately discovered that the umbrella-shaped plants attached to the aura chi seemed to have become dispirited and listless. Lu Ping's mind raced, and the 6 layers of aura chi were retracted by Lu Ping. Finally, only the golden myriad meteoric aura was left. At this time, the umbrella-shaped plants that were attached to the aura chi were suddenly corroded by the myriad meteoric aura and turned into flying ashes. Taoist Lu Ping's complexion changed, but Lu Ping was actually happy. A golden water droplet was wrapped in Lu Ping's true essence in his hands. He clasped his hands together, and the golden water droplet suddenly turned into a golden mist. Under the control of Lu Ping, it diffused towards the umbrella-shaped plants that were floating all around. Countless umbrella-shaped plants withered one after another. After Taoist Lu Ping advanced to the late stage of core forging, the colorful fallen petals' great magical ability that he had painstakingly cultivated was easily broken by Lu Ping's myriad meteoric aura chi. However, Taoist Lu Ping had painstakingly cultivated for several years, so how could he only have a few tricks up his sleeve? Seeing that Lu Ping had broken his magical ability, Taoist Lu Hai's originally green complexion turned pale. Then, a gentle breeze blew in the sky, and countless fine needles that were invisible to ordinary eyes followed the breeze and flew towards Lu Ping's body. However, after Lu Ping had witnessed Taoist Lu Hai's previous magical ability, he had already realized that every late-stage core forging cultivator had their own unique skills. Even if Lu Ping really had the strength to contend against a late-stage core forging cultivator, If he was careless, even a slight advantage could cause Lu Ping to suffer a crushing defeat. Not to mention that Lu Ping's 3 pure true pupils had already discovered the fine needles that Taoist Lu Hai had hidden in the breeze. Therefore, how could Lu Ping give Taoist Lu Hai the opportunity to make the first move? Just as Taoist Lu Hai used the breeze to blow the fine needles towards Lu Ping's body, Lu Ping's golden scale sword had already issued a heaven-shaking sword cry. With the golden scale sword as the center, countless sword lights formed a huge sword formation with the golden scale sword as the center. A huge sword whirlpool appeared once again, rolling and churning towards Taoist Lu Hai to kill him. Countless densely packed crisp sounds could be heard. Taoist Master Green Sea's breezy fine needles were admittedly an excellent method for a sneak attack, but how could such a head-on confrontation be a match for the great divine ability of swordsmanship? They were instantly crushed into pieces by the enormous sword vortex. Lu Ping's 100 rivers into the sea sword formation continued to roll towards Taoist Lu Hai. This time, Taoist Lu Hai's complexion really changed. With the ebony shield in front of his body, Taoist Lu Hai released a circular ring in the air, creating arcs of light in the air, striking down the rolling sword lights again and again. At the same time, his figure rapidly retreated in an attempt to escape from the encirclement of Lu Ping's powerful sword formation. After several fierce confrontations, Taoist Lu Hai finally relied on his 7th-layer core forging cultivation to escape from the strangulation of Lu Ping's 100 rivers into the sea sword formation. However, at this moment, he was already in an extremely difficult situation. The ebony shield above his head had already been crushed into pieces by the sword formation. The jade bracelet was still in Taoist Lu Hai's hand. This was his life-bonded magic treasure, but it was already covered with cracks from the incessant collisions with the sword light. Although this jade bracelet was a psychic magic treasure condensed with 6 treasure restrictions, there were 2 ordinary treasure restrictions condensed with the same type of treasure restriction. Similarly, there was also a psychic treasure restriction that was condensed twice. In fact, only 4 treasure restrictions were used. Therefore, its power was at most equivalent to the golden scale sword, which condensed 5 different treasure restrictions. However, the attack of a flying sword was originally the most tyrannical technique in the cultivation world. Therefore, in the process of continuously colliding with the golden scale sword, Taoist Lu Hai's life-bonded magic treasure was extremely seriously damaged. After escaping from the strangulation of Lu Ping's great sword formation, Taoist Lu Hai didn't even have time to take a breath. His divine sense seemed to have captured something. His expression changed, and he wanted to dodge to the side. A faint blue sword light flashed and cut a hole on his protective aura. However, this was only the beginning of Lu Ping's series of attacks. Just as Taoist Lu Hai dodged the attack of the invisible nether aqua sword, a huge silver seal came whistling down from above his head. Unable to dodge in time, Taoist Lu Hai raised his hand towards the sky. The landslide seal was immediately fixed in midair, and Taoist Lu Hai's body was also pressed down by a few meters. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. The landslide seal art, that didn't have the psychic treasure seal art, was becoming less and less useful in battles against mid and late core forging cultivators. Although Lu Ping sighed in his heart, his hands didn't slow down at all. A water whip appeared in his hand, and with a shake of his hand, it coiled around Taoist Lu Hai's body. Taoist Lu Hai's body was fixed in place by the landslide seal. For a moment, he couldn't move. Just as the water whip was about to imprison him, Taoist Lu Hai's body suddenly exploded, turning into countless umbrella-shaped floating plants that fled in all directions. Having lost its support, the landslide seal fell onto the sea outside of Huangli Island, smashing a few blood condensation demon beasts hiding inside it into pieces. Just as Taoist Lu Hai turned into countless umbrella-shaped plants and fled, a clump of spirit fire appeared in Lu Ping's hands. The 2 clumps of spirit fire turned into 2 huge fire serpents, burning towards the center from both sides. Countless umbrella-shaped plants were burned to ashes, and at the same time, they let out shrill screams. Lu Ping's eyes emitted a dazzling green light as he carefully searched for something among the umbrella-shaped plants that filled the sky. Suddenly, the green light in Lu Ping's eyes dissipated, and a sneer appeared on his face. A ball of myriad poison liquid that was even bigger than the previous one appeared in Lu Ping's hand. It turned back into a golden mist and surrounded Lu Ping. Then, Lu Ping rushed into the umbrella-shaped floating plants that filled the sky. Just as Lu Ping rushed into the umbrella-shaped floating plants, the surrounding floating plants that were burning Lu Ping's heaven and earth spirit fire suddenly rushed towards Lu Ping's body in a frenzy. Then, when they came into contact with the golden mist of the myriad poison liquid, they withered one after another. In just a moment, the thick golden mist transformed from the fist-sized ball of myriad poison liquid in Lu Ping's hand became thinner. However, at this time, Lu Ping had already arrived at a place where the umbrella-shaped floating plants were the densest. Lu Ping sneered. The golden scale sword turned into a huge sword net in the sky, enveloping the nearby space. The gathered umbrella-shaped floating plants suddenly began to rush in all directions, trying to escape the sword net. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and tightly clenched it. The sword net immediately began to shrink. Taoist Lu Hai's jade bracelet suddenly flew out from the floating plant and hit the sword net. The jade bracelet broke, and at the same time, the sword net was successfully torn apart. The floating plant finally escaped from the sword net. However, just as it escaped from the sword net, it saw a huge cauldron descending from the sky. The Lin Chuan cauldron swallowed the floating plant into the alchemy furnace. The eastern purple chi flame streaked across the sky and ignited the alchemy furnace. Suddenly, a desperate roar came from the Lin Chuan cauldron, but it came to an abrupt stop. After a moment, the Lin Chuan cauldron was opened by Lu Ping. A black flying ash was blown away by Lu Ping. Then, a golden pill with its divine sense burnt out flew out of the alchemy furnace and was collected by Lu Ping in a jade bottle. Taoist Lu Hai had finally fallen. Lu Ping wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead. The remaining umbrella-shaped floating plants floating in the sky suddenly scattered down towards the sea. After a moment, the sea was covered with green floating plants, turning into a veritable green sea. Chapter 469. In the battle with Taoist Lu Hai, Lu Ping consumed most of the qi in his body. However, Lu Ping still defeated this demon cultivator who had just advanced to the late stage of core forging realm. After Lu Ping swallowed Taoist Lu Hai's golden core into the Lin Chuan cauldron and refined the divine sense in it, both sides of the human race who had been watching the battle between the two had a look of disbelief. Lu Ping let out a long sigh of relief. After Taoist Ao Lai and Taoist Mo Wei trapped Taoist Chu Xuanqing, the demon race's biggest source of confidence in occupying Huangli Island was Taoist Lu Hai. This 7th-level core forging realm cultivator was enough to defeat all the human cultivators who dared to stop the demon race from reclaiming Huangli Island. However, the demon race's most confident existence was killed by Lu Ping. This was a heavy blow to the demon race's morale. If there were no accidents, with him killing Taoist Lu Hai as a deterrent, the demon race would have no hope of occupying Huangli Island and would quickly retreat. Lu Ping's whole body relaxed. However, in this moment of relaxation, a strange iron mace with a thick top and thin bottom suddenly struck silently from behind Lu Ping. This was not only out of Lu Ping's expectation, but also out of everyone else's expectation. After Lu Ping killed Taoist Lu Hai, among the cultivators present, except for Taoist Ao Lai and Taoist Mo Wei who were fighting with Chu Xuanqing, who else dared to attack Lu Ping? Lu Ping's divine sense finally found something wrong the moment the iron mace was about to hit him. The protective aura around his body quickly expanded outwards. The golden scale sword that was swimming beside Lu Ping immediately blocked the iron mace that was coming towards Lu Ping. Amidst a loud clang, the golden scale sword finally collided with the metal truncheon just as it was about to reach him. A series of sparks flew. The golden scale sword finally blocked the metal truncheon, but it was also sent flying. However, after this tower-shaped metal truncheon was blocked by the golden scale sword at the base, the body and tip of the tower bent and rapidly fell forward with great force. Pa! Under the stunned gazes of the surrounding cultivators, the iron mace hit Lu Ping's protective aura in a strange way. 5 of the 6 layers of protective aura were broken in the blink of an eye, leaving only the most solid Kuei water-true aura barely blocking in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping's body flew forward with all his might, trying to neutralize the impact of the iron mace breaking the protective aura. However, when the huge force broke the protective aura layer by layer, it messed up the circulation of the true essence in Lu Ping's body. Lu Ping fled while coughing. At the same time, he tried his best to suppress the boiling true essence in his blood. A trace of blood overflowed from the corner of Lu Ping's mouth as he coughed. If Lu Ping hadn't consumed too much true essence in the battle with Taoist Lu Hai, the same attack would not have forced Lu Ping into such a passive position. Although the owner of the Iron Mace did not expect that under his sneak attack, Lu Ping could still have such a fast reaction speed and had an extraordinary protective aura, this sneak attack had, after all, taken the initiative. The Iron Mace turned in the air, letting the golden scale sword in front of him continue to hit behind Lu Ping. The speed of the lightning made Lu Ping unable to turn around to face the enemy, and the sneak attacker obviously did not want to give Lu Ping a fair chance to compete. However, the sneak attacker had miscalculated, or it could be said that the sneak attacker thought that Lu Ping had made a mistake. After escaping the initial sneak attack, Lu Ping did not escape again. Instead, he suddenly turned around and faced the sneak attacker behind him. The sneak attacker was immediately overjoyed. In the instant that Lu Ping turned around, the strange iron mace had once again hit toward Lu Ping. In the view of the sneak attacker, even if this attack could not kill Lu Ping, it could at least severely injure him. Lu Ping stared at Aojia's face with a pair of obsidian eyes that were like 2 sharp swords. He held a broken flag in his hand and waved it at the incoming iron mace. A black light barrier instantly appeared in front of Lu Ping, shielding him from the incoming attack. Aojia had seen the power of Lu Ping's little flag when he blocked Lu Ping's attack from Taoist Lu Hai. The little flag's defensive power was only comparable to a top-grade spirit-channeling mystic treasure with 6 layers of seals. Aojia was the most outstanding monster cultivator among the 3rd generation of the primordial crocodile clan. His iron gin itself was a top-grade spirit-channeling mystic treasure. It was made from the tail of the primordial crocodile clan, along with many rare spirit materials. The iron gin was also a top-grade spirit-channeling mystic treasure. In a head-on confrontation, Aojia was confident that he could directly shatter the black light curtain cast by Lu Ping's little flag. However, Aojia soon found that the black light curtain cast by Lu Ping with the water-controlling flag was slightly different this time. From time to time, the shadows of White Lotus flashed in the black light curtain. Aojia had no time to think about the difference between these White Lotuses and the black curtain of light. The iron truncheon once again struck the black curtain of light. However, contrary to Aojia's expectations, the black curtain of light was like a stream of water, continuously sending White Lotuses over. The iron truncheon shattered one lotus, but was blocked by another. In the end, it was unable to break through the black curtain of light. The golden scale sword flew back, ready to fight. The iron mace returned without any success, waiting for an opportunity. Lu Ping looked at the dark-skinned, burly, and hostile young man in front of him, frowned, and said, "Primitive giant crocodile, do you have a name?" The dark-skinned young man smiled fiercely and said, "I have always heard that you are strong, and today I see that you are indeed worthy of your reputation. However, although the 2 attacks just now did not take your life, I am afraid that you are not feeling good now. After fighting continuously, how much strength do you have to fight against me?" Lu Ping smiled lightly and said, "You can try." Aojia could not see the depth of Lu Ping's face. The iron mace in his hand swayed and pointed at Lu Ping, but it was difficult to guess where he was going to attack. From the opponent's means just now, Lu Ping could already perceive that although this primitive giant crocodile's cultivation was only at the 6th level of core forging, its strength was not much weaker than Taoist Master Lu Hai. He was afraid that the person in front of him was the real trump card of the demon race in attacking Huangli Island, so he was also ready to fight. Just when the battle between the two was about to break out, the teleportation array guarded by the cultivators of Huangli Island suddenly emitted a dazzling white light. Amidst the deafening cheers of the cultivators of Huangli Island, Jinling reinforcements from Dikuan Island, led by Taoist Master Xian Chong, a total of 6 people appeared on Huangli Island. Taoist Master Xian Chang's divine sense instantly covered more than half of Huangli Island, and then he ordered Taoist Master Xian He and the others who followed behind him, expel the demon race from Huangli Island, and kill all those who resist. 5 mid-stage core forging cultivators quickly joined the battle, and this new force quickly changed the situation of the 2 races on Huangli Island. Taoist Master Xian Chong flew to join the battle above Huangli Island, followed by a series of earth-shattering explosions in the sky, and at the same time, Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing's hearty laughter could be heard. In the sky, 2 rays of light flew away, and Taoist Master Mo Wei's voice came from afar. Boys of the demon race, the situation is hopeless. Quickly retreat from Huangli Island. Aojia fiercely put away the iron mace and said to Lu Ping, "Count yourself lucky. Remember, I, Aojia, will take your life next time." Lu Ping smiled contemptuously. "Next time? Do you think I will give you another chance?" Aojia snorted coldly, turned around, and fled out of Huangli Island. Lu Ping didn't chase after him, but he didn't dare to be careless again, fearing that he would repeat the same mistake as before. He quickly swallowed a healing pill refined with spirit water and began to fight with the cultivators of Dikuan Island who came to help, killing those demons who hadn't retreated in time. Since the cultivators of Dikuan Island came to help, it meant that Xinling's sect's siege on Tianling Mountain had been broken, and Jinling had freed up his hands to fight against the demons who were taking advantage of the situation. The demons who were restraining Taoist Master Xian Chong on Dikuan Island must have found out about this and quickly retreated. Therefore, Taoist Master Xian Chong led the cultivators to reinforce Huangli Island. With the help of Taoist Master Xian Chong and the others, the demon cultivators who invaded Huangli Island were quickly wiped out. Hu Lili led her junior martial sisters and disciples to quickly repair the broken formation plates on Huangli Island and restore the island's protective array formation. In this battle, the demons returned in defeat, but Jinling's side also paid an extremely heavy price. On Jinling's side, including Lu Ping's companions and Taoist Master Xian Su's group who came to Huangli Island to prepare to go out to sea, a total of 18 core forging realm cultivators fought against more than 20 core forging realm experts led by 3 late core forging realm demon cultivators. Although the cultivators on Jinling's side were at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation, Yin Xianchu, Ji Xianxian, Yao Yong, Du Feng, and the others were Jinling's most outstanding third-generation disciples. Although they were no match for the mid-core forging realm demon cultivators, they were still able to hold off the mid-core forging realm demon cultivators for a while, especially after Lu Ping appeared in time. First, he severely injured a mid-core forging realm demon cultivator who was fighting against Chen Lian and Taoist Master Xian Tao. Then, he seriously injured another mid-core forging realm demon cultivator and forced him to escape. Then, when Yao Yong killed Lu Hai, Yin Xianchu and the others took the opportunity to kill another mid-core forging realm demon cultivator. At this time, Jinling's disadvantage in the battle between core forging realm experts was suddenly reversed. Even so, on Jinling's side, 3 outer core forging realm cultivators who followed Taoist Master Xian Su to Huangli Island died. Zhang Jie was seriously injured and in a coma. Whether she could break through to the mid-core forging realm in the future was a problem. Yao Yong encountered the primordial giant crocodile Aojia, who later attacked Lu Ping and was seriously injured. At this time, Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing was furious. Fortunately, after Lu Ping examined Yao Yong, he found that although Yao Yong's injuries were serious, they did not damage his foundation. However, he was afraid that it would be difficult for him to recover without a few years of recuperation. Zhong Jin, Ma Yu and his wife, as well as Du Feng, Yin Xianchu, Ji Xianxian, and Taoist Master Xian Su, the 6 people who fought against the mid-core forging realm demon cultivators, were also seriously injured. The only ones who were still in good condition were Shi Lingling, Hu Lili, Chen Lian, and Taoist Master Xian Tao. Shi Lingling's body was full of treasures. Just like Lu Ping's junior sister Jiang Xianxian, if she couldn't win, she would use countless high-level talismans. The talisman weapons made by Fa Xiang Laozu were thrown out as if they were free. Instead, she successively killed 2 early core Forging Realm demon cultivators who were besieging her and scared the remaining one away. Lily had the purple crystal bee demon soldier formation to protect her. Even a mid-core Forging Realm demon cultivator would have to avoid the formation formed by more than 1,000 fist-sized purple crystal bees. Chun-Lian and Taoist Master Xin Tao were relatively lucky. After killing a mid-core Forging Realm demon cultivator, they didn't encounter another mid-core Forging Realm demon cultivator. When the two of them joined forces, the other early core Forging Realm demon cultivators couldn't do anything to them. However, the 3 of them also had a dispirited appearance, as their true essence was greatly damaged. Among them, Lily had to force herself to repair Huangli Island's island protecting array with the help of her junior sisters. Luan Lu Qiner had learned a lesson this time. First, she hid among the demon cultivators and took the opportunity to sneak attack a core Forging Realm demon cultivator. After that, she was chased by a mid-core Forging Realm demon cultivator. Helpless, she hid in Lily's demon soldier formation. The demon cultivators couldn't do anything to this demon soldier formation and could only resentfully retreat. Lu Ping had a huge battle with Taoist Master Lu Hai. After that, he was sneak attacked by the primordial giant crocodile Ao Jia. In fact, his body was also quite heavily injured. Fortunately, his body was much stronger than ordinary cultivators because he had taken the gold quality pill and bone forging pill. In addition, his true essence was much more vigorous than ordinary people. Therefore, Lu Ping endured the injuries on his body and thanked Taoist Master Xin Chong and the others who came to support him. After that, he hurriedly began to restore order to Huangli Island. In this battle, Huangli Island suffered heavy losses. There were nearly 3,000 blood condensation and blood refining realm cultivators on the island. Only slightly more than half of them survived. Most of the cultivators who died were killed by the early core Forging Realm demon cultivators. This was because Lily had learned her lesson when the demon clan destroyed the teleportation array in advance. She had set up a small protective array around the teleportation array in the middle of the island's protective array. It was precisely this array that allowed many cultivators on the island to defend the teleportation array while resisting the attacks of the core Forging Realm demon cultivators. Thus, they were able to survive. Just as Lu Ping had arranged everything, he asked Fang Tao to lead Jinling and the surviving cultivators to restore order to Huangli Island. The teleportation array on the island lit up again. A figure that was extremely familiar to Lu Ping appeared in Lu Ping's vision. Lu Ping's face lit up. He quickly walked forward and said, "Master Immortal Lu, why are you here? Does Martial Uncle Gua have any instructions for me?" Master Immortal Lu also walked over quickly. However, he looked a little anxious. He grabbed Lu Ping's arm and took 2 steps to the side. He said in a low voice, "Something happened. The sects in the North Sea are pressuring our sect to capture junior brother Yin Xianqiu. Master said that if we capture him, his life will be in danger. I'm afraid that even our sect is powerless this time. You must be prepared." Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Although he had already expected this situation to happen and had made preparations in advance, when it really happened, Lu Ping couldn't help but feel disappointed. In the end, the sect still couldn't withstand the pressure and protect its own disciple. However, the fact that Master Immortal Lu had rushed over to inform the sect was most likely due to enlightened Master Gua Xuanshan's guidance. Perhaps this was also the sect's attitude that they were unwilling to admit. Chapter 470. Master Immortal Lu Ziyuan was known as Enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan after advancing to the core Forging Realm. He was Enlightened Master Gua Xuanshan's 5th direct disciple. Enlightened Master Gua Xuanshan's eldest disciple died in a demonic beast attack before advancing to the core Forging Realm. His 3rd disciple was limited by his aptitude and was stuck in the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm for several years before his lifespan ran out. Although his 2nd and 4th disciples had broken through to the core Forging Realm, they were stuck at the threshold of the mid-core Forging Realm for over 100 years. Before Enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan advanced to the core Forging Realm, he looked like a mediocre blood condensation realm cultivator. blood condensation realm cultivators had a lifespan of 300 years at most. Enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan spent over 150 years to successfully advance to the core forging realm. Compared to geniuses like Lu Ping and the others, the difference was like heaven and earth. However, Enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan was a person of innate talent. His aptitude wasn't outstanding, but he had great perseverance and wisdom. He was willing to sacrifice his cultivation speed and spend over 100 years polishing his cultivation base, laying down a solid foundation and accumulating a rich foundation. It wasn't until the North Sea opened up the buffer zone that Enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan made a name for himself at the late blood condensation realm and was listed as one of the North Sea's 18 generals. After that, Taoist Master Lu Xinyuan successfully advanced to the core forging stage. Due to the accumulation he had accumulated in his early years, his progress was unstoppable. In just a few decades, he had broken through the mid-stage core forging stage and reached the 5th layer core forging stage. He was quite famous among the mid-stage core forging stage disciples of Jinling sect. He was the typical late bloomer among Jinling sect cultivators, and he was also Taoist Gue Xuanshan's designated successor. If it wasn't for the fact that Enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan advanced to the core forging realm late, and that the North Sea's rookie list had a limit of 100 years of cultivation time, he would have long been on the list with his strength. After Hu Lili finished repairing the island's protective array, Spiritual Master Xian Chong and Spiritual Master Chu Xuanqing left first, leaving only Lu Ping and his companions on Huangli Island, as well as Spiritual Master Lu Xinyuan and Chan Lian's junior brother, Spiritual Master Xian Tao. Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing originally wanted to take Yao Yong away, but after Yao Yong woke up, he insisted on staying on Huangli Island. Yao Yong's reason was very simple. If he stayed on Huangli Island to guard an alchemy grandmaster, his injuries would recover faster. Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing chuckled and left first. After listening to Spiritual Master Lu Xuanyuan's brief account of the battle on Tianling Mountain, and hearing that Dao Sheng Laozu wanted all the islands within 1,000 miles of Huangli Island, everyone cursed loudly. Lu Ping narrowed his eyes slightly, and a cold light radiated from his eyes, while Yin Xuanchu's body emitted a coldness that was even stronger. When they heard that Yuan Guang Laozu from the Crystal Palace had appeared and was obviously biased, everyone was a little annoyed. Although no one here except for Lu Ping had been to East Sea, everyone knew a thing or two about the power of the Crystal Palace. This was a giant sect that was even more powerful than the Fei Ling sect that existed 4,000 years ago. When they heard that Tian Kong Laozu had appeared out of nowhere, and that the 4 mid-Dharma Laozu from Zhenling had scared off the Xinling sect, and that even Yuan Guang Laozu had tactfully retreated in the end, everyone cheered again. Everyone's face was full of joy and pride. The 4 mid-Dharma Laozu, at the moment when Tian Kong Laozu appeared, had in fact announced the change of ownership of the number 1 sect in North Sea. Yao Yong was a straightforward person. Although he was seriously injured and his face was sallow, he still could not help but ask, "Immortal Elder, didn't Elder Tian Kong reach the end of his lifespan and have been relying on the elixirs refined by our sect to prolong his life? How did he suddenly advance to the mid-Dharma stage?" Although Yao Yong and the others were all third-generation disciples of Jinling like Perfected Lu Xinyuan, Perfected Lu Xinyuan had been the leader of the 7th group in Jinling Courtyard and had been respected by everyone. Therefore, even though most of them were now core forging adepts, Yao Yong and the others were still used to addressing Perfected Lu Xinyuan as Immortal Elder. Perfected Lu Xinyuan pondered for a while and said, "The specifics may involve a big secret of our sect, and only the few Laozu in our sect know about it. However, I've heard Master Zhenren Gua mention that Elder Tian Kong was indeed on the verge of reaching the end of his lifespan, and he did indeed rely on the elixirs to prolong his life. However, the elixirs that our sect found for Elder Tian Kong not only helped to prolong his life, but also gave him an additional 30 years of lifespan. It seems that Elder Tian Kong used these extra 30 years of lifespan to perform a secret technique of our sect. At the cost of these 30 years of lifespan, he triggered the tribulation of the early Dharma stage. Elder Tian Kong was already at the peak of the early Dharma stage, and after passing the tribulation, not only did his injuries heal, but he also gained an additional 200 years of lifespan. Everyone was overjoyed, but Lu Ping was frowning, and no one knew what he was thinking. After a while, he asked, "Immortal Lu, other than using the precious elixirs as the price, is there anything wrong with this secret technique?" Everyone knew that Lu Ping was a master of alchemy, and he had a deep understanding of these secret techniques that used up lifespan and healed injuries. Since he said that there was something wrong with it, then there really was something wrong with it. Hence, everyone quietened down and listened to perfected Lu Xuanyuan's explanation. Enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan looked at Lu Ping in surprise and said, "Junior brother Lu, you are indeed an alchemy master. Teacher once said that this secret skill is a death trap. If it wasn't for martial Uncle Tian Kong, who was already at the last step to enter the mid-Dharma stage before he was injured, it would have been extremely difficult for him to survive." At this point, perfected Lu Xianyuan paused, as if recalling what perfected Gua had said before, and then said, "There is indeed something wrong with this secret technique," but Master did not explain it clearly. It seems that although Elder Tian Kong had advanced to the mid-Dharma stage, his actual lifespan was not as long as other mid-Dharma adepts like Lao Zu. Lu Ping nodded and said, "That's right. This secret technique was used when Elder Tian Kang's lifespan was about to run out. At the moment when Elder Tian Kong advanced to the mid-Dharma stage, he was actually equivalent to a 1,000-year-old adept. His actual lifespan was only the 200 years that a mid-Dharma adept would have compared to an early Dharma adept." "What?" Shi Lingling exclaimed, somewhat losing her composure. "That's impossible. Grandfather has only cultivated for 700 years now. According to the lifespan of a mid-Dharma adept, which is close to 1,200 years, grandfather should have at least 400 years left to live. How could it only be 200 years? Everyone had been guessing which descendant of Lao Zu Shi Lingling was, but Shi Lingling had always been tight-lipped, so no one had asked. Now that she had said it herself in a moment of desperation, everyone knew that Shi Lingling was actually Tian Kang's granddaughter, Lao Zu. When a practitioner advanced to the core forging stage, their lifespan would be extended to 500 years. After advancing to the mid-core forging stage, the practitioner's lifespan would be extended to another 100 years. When they reached the late core forging stage, their lifespan would be extended to 700 years. And once a practitioner crossed the threshold of the Dharma stage, their lifespan would be extended to 800 to 1,000 years. While a mid-Dharma adept like Lao Zu could live for 1,200 years, when he reached the late Dharma stage, his lifespan would be extended to a terrifying 1,500 years. Lu Ping sighed and said, "Although I don't know the contents of the secret technique, my guess is most likely correct. It's just that I didn't expect Sister Shi Lingling to be the descendant of Elder Tian Kong. But there's nothing we can do about it. Elder Tian Kang's lifespan was depleted because he used the secret technique all those years ago. If he didn't use this technique to fight for his life, I'm afraid he would have died by now. Although this technique reduced Elder Tian Kang's lifespan as a mid-Dharma adept by more than 200 years, he still came back to life in the end. Furthermore, he's no longer in a state where he was heavily injured and on the brink of death. Instead, he's now a true mid-Dharma adept." Shi Lingling also knew that what Lu Ping said was right, but since this matter concerned her own family, Shi Lingling could not help but feel emotional. Hu Lily and the rest consoled her from the side, and only then did Shi Lingling calm down. But these are all minor details. Right now, there's something more important. As Lu Ping spoke, he glanced at Yin Xianchu out of the corner of his eye. Yin Xianchu seemed to have sensed it and raised his head slightly, but his expression was still as cold as ice. Lu Ping nodded at perfected Lu Xianyuan. Perfected Lu Xianyuan also glanced at Yin Xianchu and sighed inwardly. He repeated what he had said to Lu Ping earlier. "What?" Yao Yong ignored the injuries on his body and jumped up immediately. He roared, "Are you kidding me? Our Zhenling is now the #1 sect in the North Sea. Why should we listen to 4 mid-Dharma adepts like Lao Zu? How can we just hand Brother Yin over just because they say so? How can the sect do this? Wouldn't that disappoint everyone?" Everyone was still shocked by Yin Xuanchu's identity as a descendant of the human and demon race. Seeing that Yin Xianchu was still sitting there without any expression on his face, everyone knew that his identity as a mixed-blood human and demon was real. However, Yao Yong had already started shouting loudly without a care. Perfected Lu Xinyuan smiled bitterly. Brother Yao, be careful with your words. Since ancient times, humans and demons have always been at odds with each other. This is a matter of great righteousness, and no one can do anything about it. Now that Brother Yin's identity has been exposed, even if our sect is the strongest in the North Sea, we can't withstand the attacks of all the cultivators in the North Sea. Moreover, there's also Xinling sect and Yuan Guanglaozu of the Crystal Palace secretly adding fuel to the fire. Now that our Xinling tree attracts the wind, everyone in the North Sea cultivation world is watching our sect. If we're even the slightest bit careless, we'll lose everything. Be careful with your words. Be a descendant of the human and demon race, my ass. Yao Yong was already seriously injured, and after shouting, he was already coughing non-stop. However, he still insisted. I only know that Brother Yin is my brother. Even if he's a demon, he's still my brother. Yin Xuanchu's body trembled. Ji Xin, who was beside him, patted his shoulder but didn't say anything. Shi Lingling frowned and said unhappily, Brother Yao, Master Immortal Lu was instructed by Uncle Master Gua to deliver the message. Uncle Master Gua is our sect's deacon. Since he did this, doesn't that represent the sect's attitude? Moreover, Master Immortal Lu came to deliver the message out of goodwill. Who are you shouting at? Why don't you shout at Dao Sheng and Yuan Guang? Yao Yong's face turned red, and he jumped up from the ground again. He bowed to Perfected Lu Xinyuan and said, Master Immortal Lu, please forgive me for being rude. I'm not targeting you. Lu Xinyuan smiled bitterly. It's fine. But how are we going to resolve this situation? I'm afraid it won't be long before someone comes to capture Brother Yin. We have to deal with it before they come. At this moment, Yin Xianchu suddenly stood up and said, This matter has nothing to do with everyone. I'll deal with it myself. With that, he was about to walk out of the cave abode when a figure flashed in front of him. Lu Ping was already in front of him. Chapter 471. Lu Ping stood in front of Yin Xianchu and said in a low voice, Where are you going? Yin Xianchu was stunned. After a long while, he finally said, Run? Lu Ping nodded and said, Not bad. At least you haven't lost your mind and fought with Xinling sect. But let me ask you, where can you escape to? Yin Xianchu raised his head to look at Lu Ping. Only now did he realize that if the sects of the North Sea had forced Xinling to do so, there would be no place for Yin Xianchu in the North Sea cultivation world. Wherever he went, there would be calls for him to be beaten up. When Yin Xianchu stood up earlier, he had indeed held his breath and wanted to fight with Xinling sect. His mother was killed by Xinling sect, and his father, the mysterious Yin spiritual master, also died because of Xinling sect. Since he couldn't tolerate both the human and demon races, he naturally had thoughts of weariness. However, when Lu Ping stood in front of him and asked loudly, Where are you going? He suddenly realized that he was still carrying the blood feud of his parents. He definitely couldn't seek his own death so easily. He had to survive at all costs, and then become stronger. Only then could he avenge his parents. At this time, Ji Xin also walked over and said, I'm afraid you can't stay in the North Sea. Once your identity is known, the North Sea will be an inescapable trap for you. Unless you can hide in a place forever, there's no need to even think about the demon race's territorial waters. In this case, you can only escape to the East Sea. Yes, only to the East Sea. At this time, Shi Lingling also spoke, but how can I escape to the East Sea? You should know that the transportation array between the North Sea and the East Sea is controlled by the various sections. Junior Brother Yin, going there now is like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. Everyone looked at Lu Ping. Lu Ping shook his head and said, It was by chance that I was able to reach the East Sea back then. That transportation array has long been destroyed by me. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. However, they heard Lu Ping say, For now, there is actually another transportation formation that leads to the North Sea, and that is Universe Island. Everyone fell silent when they heard this. Universe Island was where the headquarters of the North Sea's Human Cultivation World Alliance was located. The North Sea's 10 great sects, as well as several renowned sects and clans, had set up branches on Universe Island. As a result, There were as many experts as there were clouds in the sky on Universe Island. The security there was so tight that it was not inferior to the bases of the North Sea's 10 great sects. Yao Yong was very anxious and wanted to say something. However, he was seriously injured and couldn't help in this matter. Therefore, he didn't say anything in the end. Right at this moment, another person hurriedly ran into Lu Ping's cave. When he raised his head and saw that there were many people here, he didn't have time to be surprised. When he saw that Yin Xianchu was here, he said, "I received news that the sect wants to capture senior brother Yin." The person who came was Zhang Xuanqing. After he advanced to the core forging stage, he had been helping True Spirit Side Courtyard's Master Profound Miao take care of the side courtyard's affairs. Therefore, this time, Lu Ping didn't ask for his help. Zhang Xuanqing hurriedly came to report the news. But when he saw that everyone in the cave was indifferent, he couldn't help but ask anxiously, "Why aren't you saying anything?" Yao Yong said in a bad mood, "We already knew that the sect wants to capture junior brother Yin. Master Immortal Lu has already arrived." Only then did Zhang Xuanqing see that Master Immortal Lu was also in the cave. However, Zhang Xuanqing didn't have time to greet Master Lu Xinyuan. He hurriedly said, "No, when I arrived, the news had already spread throughout Heaven's Spirit Mountain. It said that senior brother Yin is a human and demon." Zhang Xuanqing looked at Yin Xianchu and directly skipped the rest of the sentence. He said, "All the major sects have sent people to our sect, saying that they want to supervise our sect's cleansing. Now, our sect's Master Profound Shu has already brought cultivators from various sects to Huangli Island." Bullshit. Yao Yong immediately flew into a rage. "What do you mean by cleansing?" Yin Xuanchu's entire body trembled. Although he tried his best to suppress it, the coldness in his heart immediately turned into boundless killing intent. The temperature in the cave dropped rapidly. It was obvious that Yin Xianchu could no longer control his emotions. Lu Ping patted Yin Xuanchu's shoulder. A faint blue light flashed, and Yin Xuanchu's aura gradually stabilized. "They came so quickly. We also need to quickly come up with a plan. If this goes on, we can only wait here for Marshal Uncle Xian Shu to come and capture us," Ji Xian said anxiously. He had always been quite quick-witted. The severity of this matter was far more serious than before. Even he was at a loss for what to do. At this moment, Zhang Xuanqing smiled somewhat complacently. He waved the item in his hand and said, "They won't be able to come for a while." After receiving the news, I immediately rushed over. At the same time, I conveniently took this item from the teleportation formation. If they want to use the teleportation formation, they have to first go to Earth Island, and then from there, teleport to Huangli Island. Everyone looked at the item in Zhang Xuanqing's hand. It was something that could choose the direction of the teleportation. In an important region like Tianling Mountain, it was bound to be connected to many other regions' teleportation formations. Naturally, Jinling couldn't build a new teleportation formation every time it was connected to another region. Instead, it would connect all the teleportation formations to the same teleportation formation. In this way, it was necessary to install this kind of compass on the teleportation formation. When cultivators needed to teleport, they could choose the region through the compass. Since Zhang Xuanqing took this item away, Master Xian Shu couldn't use the teleportation formation to determine the direction of Huangli Island. He could only go to Earth Island first, and then use the teleportation formation there to rush to Huangli Island. In this way, he could buy some buffer time for everyone. However, Zhang Xuanqing also risked being punished by the sect for taking this compass away. Because Jinling was a large sect in the Northern Sea, there were countless cultivators coming and going from Tianling Mountain every day. Zhang Xuanqing taking away the compass would delay the sect's matters. He would definitely be punished by the sect. Ji Xian gave him a thumbs up and said, "Good job." However, Lu Ping seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly lifted his foot and stomped on the ground. A blue light immediately entered the ground. He shouted, "Oh no, there are still demonic beasts hiding on this island. I'm afraid they're going to destroy the teleportation formation on Huangli Island." Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what Lu Ping was up to. Only Hu Lili and Chun Lian couldn't help but laugh. Immediately, everyone heard a deafening sound. A moment later, Zhang Wu's anxious and puzzled voice came from outside the cave. Reporting to Master Lu, the island's teleportation formation has been destroyed for no reason. At this moment, everyone realized that this was probably also Lu Ping's doing. Now, even if Xin Shu and the others used another teleportation formation to reach Earth Island, they had no choice but to delay again. Lu Ping raised his voice and said, I already know. This is because the demonic beasts on the island have not been eliminated. After a moment, Master Hu will go and repair it. All of you just have to carry out your duties. After saying that, Lu Ping patted Zhang Xuanqing's shoulder and asked in a deep voice, Junior Brother Zhang, when you arrived, were Master Xin Shu and the others already waiting at the teleportation formation? How many people did they have? What are their cultivations? How many cultivators from our sect are there? Zhang Xuanqing also said with a solemn expression, the other 9 great sects each sent a mid-core forging cultivator to be a witness. Some of the bigger sects and clans also sent people. These people are led by our sect's martial uncle Xin Shu, as well as senior brother Yuan Chang and senior brother Xin Xiang. Lu Ping frowned. Whether it was Master Xin Shu, Yuan Chang, or Xin Xiang, these people had all schemed against Lu Ping before. Among them, Yuan Chang was his mortal enemy. Lu Ping thought about it and said, there's no time to lose. We'll go to Huanyu Island right now. I believe the news has not reached Huanyu Island yet, so we still have a chance to use the teleportation formation. Shi Lingling was a little worried and said, using the teleportation formation on Huanyu Island requires the approval of all the sections. If we go just like this, I'm afraid it might not work. Lu Ping said fiercely, even if it doesn't work, it has to work. As long as we can send Junior Brother into the East Sea, anything is fine. This matter is not going to be settled peacefully anyway. At worst, we'll just force our way in. Xinshu grabbed Lu Ping and said anxiously, Senior Brother Lu, you can't. This will implicate everyone. What if the sect blames us? Lu Ping pushed Xinshu away and said coldly, what a joke. From the day we became brothers, you've already implicated everyone. Then, Lu Ping pointed at everyone in the cave dwelling and said, blame? How? Will the sect blame all of us? Or will the other sects blame us? Do you really think our sect's 4 mid-dharma adepts, Lao Zu, are made of mud? When Hu Lily saw the guilt on Yin Xuanchu's face, she said in an amiable voice, Junior Brother Lu is right. Junior Brother Yin, don't have any other thoughts. We'll do the same no matter who it was that happened to today. Yao Yong ignored the injuries on his body and jumped up again. He took out a crimson talisman and said, that's right. Junior Brother Yin, I'm afraid I won't be of much help today. This talisman was given to me by my teacher to protect my life. It's equivalent to 70% of the power of his personal attack. Even late core forging adepts will have to avoid it. Take it to protect yourself. Zhongjin laughed and said, Junior Brother Yao, why didn't you use this talisman earlier? If you had used it, you wouldn't have been seriously injured by that primordial crocodile. Yao Yong glared at Zhongjin fiercely and said in a muffled voice, Humph, that guy was too powerful. I didn't have the time to use it. Ji Xianxian took the talisman and stuffed it into Yin Xuanchu's arms. Yin Xianchu still wanted to decline, but Ji Xianxian said in a low voice, now is not the time for pleasantries. Lu Ping nodded and said, Senior sister who still has to stay behind to handle the matters on Huangli Island. Moreover, fighting and killing is not your forte, so you don't have to go. Junior Brother Zhang, return to Tianling Mountain as soon as possible. You don't have to participate in this matter. Master Immortal Lu and Junior Brother Xiantao will have to trouble the 2 of you to help Senior Sister who guard Huangli Island. Senior Brother Yao and Zhengjie are injured. Does anyone else have anything else to handle? When Zhang Xuanqing heard that Lu Ping didn't need him, he said anxiously, Senior Brother Lu, although I'm weak, I'm still at the core forging stage. I can more or less help. Lu Ping flatly refused and said, no, you can't participate in this matter. Return to Tianling Mountain as soon as possible. You've already done your best. Zhang Xuanqing still wanted to refute, but Ji Xianxian stopped him and said, Senior Brother Zhang, you're not a direct disciple. It's not good for you to participate in this matter. Zhang Xuanqing was startled, then he sat down dejectedly. Yao Yong patted his shoulder. Zhang Xuanqing nodded and said, I know this is for my own good. At this moment, perfected Lu Xinyuan also stood up and said, Marshal Uncle Xuanzi should still be on Huangli Island. I'll leave the matter of helping junior sister who guard Huangli Island to him. I'll lend you a hand first. Lu Ping was a little hesitant and said, Master Immortal, but perfected Gua. Perfected Lu Xinyuan chuckled and said, I know what I'm doing. You don't have to worry about teacher. Besides, celestial phenomenon Laozu's attitude at that time was unclear, which was why Reverend Black Een had given up and could only try his best to cover it up. Unfortunately, in the end, the matter was exposed. Xianling sect's Dao Shi Laozu had practiced a divine ability that allowed him to see through the secrets of the demon race who had taken human form. When Reverend Black Een and Een Fei had gone out once, Dao Shi Laozu had accidentally seen through their tracks. At that time, it had been a few years after Jiang Xinlin and Lu Tianling had worked together to kill Dao Kong Laozu. The relationship between the two sects had always been tense, which was why Dao Shi Laozu had made a prompt decision to kill Reverend Black Een. At that time, Li Xuanin's level of cultivation had not reached his current level yet, and Een Fei had only just reached the later stage of the core forging realm. There was no way the two of them could be Dao Shi Laozu's opponent. Een Fei had been heavily injured on the spot, and Li Xianin had managed to block Dao Shi Laozu's attack by exploding the ice dragon pearl that Een Fei had inherited, and only then had he managed to escape back to Jinling. Due to Een Fei's status as a demon, Jinling could only suffer in silence and could not stand up for her. Besides, due to Dao Kong Laozu's matter, after Jinling fought a great battle against Xianling sect, Tian Kong Laozu was heavily injured, and Jinling ordered the entire sect to rest and recuperate. They held themselves back and did not make a move. Reverend Black Een was not a foolish person. He knew that it was not the time for revenge, and so he could only place all his heart and soul on raising his son, Een Chu, who was born to him with Een Fei. It was not that there were no people in the sect who objected to their son's identity, but because Reverend Black Een had just lost his wife at that time, and Reverend Black Een was also very protective of his son. He saw every single person who got close to Een Chu as someone who harbored ill intentions. Because of that, no one had the heart to bring up this matter again. Unexpectedly, decades later, Reverend Black Een was still unable to extricate himself from his hatred. He had recklessly tried to assassinate Dao Shi Laozu, and in the end, he died. Xianling sect had even used Een Chu's identity to make a big fuss about it in an attempt to suppress Xianling. Reverend Xian Shu really wanted to shirk this task. Even though he was originally in charge of Zhenling's rules and discipline in the sect, this was an arduous and unrewarding task. This was not only because this incident was a compromise made by Zhenling due to external pressure. The disciples of the sect would not see it as a compromise, but as a concession. The disciples of the sect would not resent the sect, but would instead vent their anger on Reverend Xian Shu, who was in charge of this mission to capture the disciples of the sect. These prestigious late core forging stage cultivators had either tactfully or directly passed on their opinions that they did not want to see something like this happen again. Reverend Xian Shu's teacher, Tian Fan Laozu, summoned him to Qimei Palace and reprimanded him. Even worse was Li Xianin. He had been following and monitoring Reverend Xian Shu for 3 days and 3 nights. Although Reverend Xian Shu knew that Li Xianin was monitoring him, he had no way of finding out where Reverend Xian Shu was hiding. The feeling that someone could strike a fatal blow from behind at any moment still made Reverend Xian Shu's hair stand on end. However, Reverend Xian Shu did not understand. What did Reverend Xian Shu receive from Lu Xianping that made him stand up for Lu Ping? In Taoist Master Xian Shu's impression, after his wife passed away, he was one of the 3 saints of the sect who rarely interacted with others. Other than his biological son who was taught by him as a disciple, there was almost no one he cared about. Thinking of his son, Reverend Xian Shu suddenly understood. Yes, it was because of his son. Een Xianchu had been a loner since he was young and did not interact with others. However, he only had 2 good friends. One was a disciple of Reverend Xian Huai, the Puppet Pavilion's deputy pavilion master. Among the third-generation disciples, he was a genius cultivator who was as famous as Yin Xianchu, Ji Xianxian. The other was obviously Lu Xianin. Back then, Li Xianin was standing up for one of his son's only two good friends. Reverend Xian Shu cursed inwardly. However, he discovered that even though everyone had been standing on the teleportation array for a long time, the teleportation array was still not activated. Reverend Xian Shu's disciple, Xian Xiang, walked down from the teleportation array to check. Then, he walked up to Reverend Xian Shu and said strangely, "Teacher, the teleportation array's compass has disappeared for some reason." Without waiting for Reverend Xian Shu to speak, Yuan Zhan, who was at the side, said thoughtfully, "This is definitely intentional." Reverend Xian Shu suddenly smiled and said meaningfully, "I'm afraid this attack has just begun." Under the stimulation of the possibility that Lu Ping could come back to seek revenge at any time, Yuan Zhan's cultivation miraculously improved by leaps and bounds. Very quickly, he broke through to the core forging realm. Just when Yuan Zhan was feeling complacent, thinking that even if Lu Ping returned, he wouldn't have to worry about it. Instead, he would defeat him in a fair and square manner to untie the knot in his heart. However, reality was always so cruel. After returning to Zhenling, Lu Ping defeated Li Xianliang with just an early-stage core forging realm cultivation. Then, during Lu Tianling Laozu's Dharma Idol Assembly, he displayed his great swordsmanship and defeated Xianling sect's genius sword cultivator Lu Ping Ouyang Weijian. Only then did Yuan Zhan realize that the gap between him and Lu Ping had not shrunk, but had instead widened. Of course, Yuan Zhan had never given up on plotting against Lu Ping. However, as Lu Ping's status grew higher and higher, it became more difficult to plot against him. With Yuan Zhan's help, even his uncle, Taoist Master Xian Shu, had to suffer when plotting against Lu Ping's Huangli Island, let alone Yuan Zhan. As Lu Ping's fame grew, his achievements grew, and his position in the sect became more and more important. Yuan Zhan finally returned to the feeling of being on guard against Lu Ping's revenge day and night. Strangely, the revenge that Yuan Zhan had imagined never came, and Lu Ping seemed to have forgotten about it. However, Yuan Zhan did not feel lucky because of this. On the contrary, he felt that he had been greatly insulted. He thought that Lu Ping was looking down on him. He thought that in Lu Ping's eyes, Yuan Zhan had lost the qualifications to be an opponent. Yuan Zhan was eager to prove himself. With the help of his uncle, Zhenling sect's enlightened Master Xian Shu, Yuan Zhan's cultivation finally reached the threshold of the mid-core forging realm. However, just when he thought that he finally had a chance to prove himself by challenging the cultivators of the same level as him from the 5 great sects of the Eastern Sea, Yuan Zhan once again suffered an unforgettable defeat. That kind of defeat was not at the hands of the disciples of the Eastern Sea's Purple Talisman Pavilion, but at the hands of a pair of swords that he had never seen before. When the golden flying sword, which looked like a flying immortal, defeated the cultivators of the Crystal Palace in a shocking way, it also shattered Yuan Zhan's last hope of surpassing Lu Ping in cultivation. However, this did not mean that Lu Ping was invincible. At least this time, it was a great opportunity to strike Lu Ping. Therefore, regardless of Taoist Master Xian Shu's advice, Yuan Zhan insisted on accompanying his uncle to capture Yin Xianchu, the bastard of a human and a demon. At least, he wanted to see the pain and helplessness of Lu Ping when he captured his best friend. The more powerless Lu Ping was, the happier Yuan Zhan felt. Of course, Yuan Zhan, who had schemed against Lu Ping several times, had his own shrewdness. Naturally, he would not show that he wanted to see Lu Ping make a fool of himself. Instead, he had his own set of high-sounding reasons to cover it up. Even though Taoist Master Xian Shu had seen through Yuan Zhan's thoughts, he did not expose him in the end. Taoist Master Xian Shu had his own selfish ambitions. He had the ability and vision, but he also had a strong desire for power. The reason why he left the Yuan family was because he saw that the Yuan family would eventually become the biggest obstacle for him to control Zhenling, which would eventually become the #1 sect in the North Sea. Jinling would never hand over the power of a sect to a cultivator who had the support of a very strong external family, no matter how outstanding the cultivator was. Taoist Master Xian Shu wanted to become a master in the North Sea's cultivation world. In order to control Jinling, he was willing to give up his family. However, Yuan Zhan was different from him. Yuan Zhan also had a desire for power. However, his dream was to strengthen his family by absorbing the resources of Jinling. He wanted the Yuan family to be a parasite on Jinling, and in order to strengthen his family, he would not hesitate to sacrifice Jinling. It could be said that the starting points of the two were completely different. However, the sad thing was that Yuan Zhan did not see this point clearly, while Taoist Master Xian Shu had long seen that this possibility could not be realized. This was also the reason why he left the Yuan family. Jinling had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, and there was a reason for its existence. Jinling had never belonged to one person, not even the Grand Ginseng Laozu from 6,000 years ago. You could use Jinling to achieve great glory in the cultivation world, but all these achievements could not exist independently of Jinling, unless you had the power to suppress the entire sect. Thus, when Yuan Zhan insisted on going to Huangli Island with him, Taoist Master Xian Shu did not explain the importance of this matter to him just because Yuan Zhan was his nephew. On the contrary, he hoped to use this opportunity to once again weaken the power of the Yuan family through Jinling. Taoist Guo Xianshan was about to advance to the Dharma stage, and he would no longer be the deacon of the sect. Chu Xuanqing and Liang Xianfeng were both unwilling to manage the sect, so the next deacon of Jinling would most likely be Taoist Master Xian Shu, who no longer had the power of the family to hold him back. Just as Taoist Master Xian Shu and the witnesses from the various sects and families of the North Sea had finished setting up the teleportation portal compass with the help of Jinling's array master, and had also determined the direction of Huangli Island, Yuan Zhan also rushed excitedly to Taoist Master Xian Shu's side. He said in a low voice, "Uncle, I've already asked around. The person who used the teleportation portal before us was Zhang Xuanqing, who assisted Uncle Master Xian Miao in managing Jinling's courtyard. This person was heading towards Huangli Island, and he is a good friend of Lu Ping and the others. This teleportation portal compass must have been taken by him to inform Yin Xianchu and the others, and at the same time, to buy time for Yin Xianchu to escape." Taoist Master Xian Shu said lightly, "Oh, that doesn't mean anything. After all, no one saw Zhang Xuanqing take away the teleportation portal compass." Yuan Zhan was stunned for a moment, then he said, "That's true, but this Zhang Xuanqing is the most suspicious. There's no time to lose. We must hurry to Huangli Island as soon as possible to prevent Yin Xianchu from escaping." Taoist Master Xian Xiang, who was standing to the side, also felt that it was somewhat irritating. He couldn't help but say in a low voice, "Junior Martial Brother Yuan, no matter what, Yin Xianchu is still a disciple of our sect. The cultivators from the other sects haven't spoken yet, so there's no need for us to say anything." At this time, the cultivator in charge of activating the teleportation portal suddenly said, "Huh? This is strange. The teleportation portal on Huangli Island can't be connected. It seems that there's a problem with the teleportation portal on Huangli Island." Taoist Master Xian Shu seemed to have already expected this situation. He said, "Then let's go to Dikuan Island. Through Dikuan Island, we can go to Xianqi Island, then we can fly there." At this time, Xianling sect's witness, a mid-stage core forging cultivator named Su Weihong, finally couldn't help but say sarcastically, "Your sect is clearly trying to evade responsibility. I'm afraid that by the time we get to Huangli Island, Yin Xianchu will have already escaped. Who knows, that vile spawn might have already surrendered to the demon race. In any case, your sect and the demon race have such a deep relationship, so I'm sure you won't mistreat him." Taoist Master Xian Xiang couldn't help but curse, "Su Weihong, shut your *king mouth. I'm telling you, before my master personally announces to junior martial brother Yin Xianchu that he is expelled from the sect, he is still my disciple, regardless of his identity. If you continue to spout nonsense like this, I, Xian Xiang, will be the first to not forgive you." Su Weihong said fiercely, "You?" Although Su Weihong still had a mocking expression on his face, this was still Jinling sect's territory. In the end, Su Weihong had no choice but to give in and stop talking. He only looked at Taoist Xian Xiang with a mocking gaze. Taoist Master Xian Shu glanced at Su Weihong and spat out 2 words, noisy. Su Weihong was infuriated. But then he thought of something and sneered without saying another word. The group arrived at Dikuan Island through the teleportation array, and from there, rushed to Xianqi Island. Although Xianqi Island was a small island, its importance to Jinling couldn't be compared to Huangli Island. Therefore, Huangli Island had a teleportation array that led directly to Tianling Mountain, while Xianqi Island only had a short-distance teleportation array on Dikuan Island. Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing naturally knew about the matter of being expelled from the sect, but he was a true core member of the sect, and his status in Jinling was extremely high. Although he couldn't openly stop Taoist Master Xian Shu from arresting Xuanqing, he still pretended to be asleep in his cave, ignoring the arrival of Taoist Master Xian Shu and the others to vent his dissatisfaction. Chapter 474. Taoist Xian Xiang's expression was somewhat conflicted. He knew that there would be resistance when he followed Taoist Xian Shu to capturing Xianqiu, but he didn't expect that there would be so many obstacles and hostility from his fellow sect members. Taoist Xian Xiang faintly regretted and even felt wronged. He didn't want to be isolated in the sect because of this matter. On the other hand, Tao Master Xian Shu was still as indifferent as ever. The cultivators from the various sects who came with them remained silent. In fact, they were all waiting to see Tao Master Xian Shu and his disciple make a fool out of themselves. Not only that, they were more willing to see the internal strife that might be triggered because of Xianqiu. Of course, only Xinling sect would act like Su Weihong did. On the surface of the sea, Lu Ping, Xianqiu, and the others were flying towards Huanyu Island at lightning speed. Ji Xianxian saw that the atmosphere was somewhat heavy and couldn't help but ask, "I'm afraid Taoist Xian Shu and the others have already arrived at Huangli Island. I hope they won't guess that we're going back to Huanyu Island." Shi Lingling thought for a moment and said, "I'm afraid it'll be difficult. There aren't many places that junior martial brother Yin can hide in. Taoist Xian Shu is also an exceptionally shrewd person. As long as he calms himself down, he will most likely be able to guess where we're going." Lu Ping touched the house of gold hanging on his chest and said, "I never intended to hide from them. Now, I can only hope that senior martial sister who can delay Taoist Xian Shu and the others on Huangli Island for a longer time." When Taoist Xian Shu and the others arrived at Huangli Island, only Hu Lili, Zhang Xuanqing, and Taoist Xian Su were left to greet them. As for Yao Yong and Zheng Jia, they didn't come out to greet them due to their injuries. Taoist Xian Shu's group of 18 people, other than Taoist Xian Shu who was a late core forging cultivator, the other 17 were all mid-core forging cultivators from various sects and clans. At this time, Huangli Island had just gone through a full-scale attack by the demon race. Although the island's protective array had been restored, the island still looked desolate and bleak. Su Weihong chuckled and said, "I've heard that water sword deity Lu Xinping runs Huangli Island very well, as if it's a treasure bowl for Jinling sect. But now that I've seen it, it's nothing much." No one said anything. When Yuan Zhan arrived at Huangli Island, it was as if he saw Lu Ping everywhere. The hatred in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Without thinking, he said, "That's true. This Huangli Island has been run so badly by Lu Xinping. It's really disappointing." After Yuan Zhan finished speaking, he suddenly realized that Su Weihong had a sneer on his face. Hu Lili sneered at Yuan Zhan and didn't say anything. Taoist Xian Su and Zhang Xuanqing looked at Yuan Zhan with surprise and doubt in their eyes. Taoist Xian Xiang frowned and cautiously reminded Yuan Zhan, "Junior martial brother Yuan, please be careful with your words." The martial uncles on Huangli Island had just repelled the demon race's attack. The main culprit that caused the demon race to attack Huangli Island was Xinling sect. Yuan Zhan smiled awkwardly and said bitterly, "Senior martial brother Xian Xiang, junior martial brother is just, Yuan Zhan said but for a long time but still couldn't come up with a reason. Spiritual Master Xian Shu ignored Yuan Zhan. Seeing that there were only 3 people here, he glanced expressionlessly at Zhang Xuanqing, turned his head and nodded at Spiritual Master Xian Su, then asked Hu Lili, Is Xinshu on the island? Daoist Xinshu's stare made Zhang Xuanqing's hair stand on end and cold sweat appeared on his back. Hu Lily stepped forward and bowed, reporting to Martial Uncle Xinshu, Junior Martial Brother Yin is not on the island. At this time, Xianling sect Su Weihong said in a strange tone, I'm afraid you all still don't know that Yin Xinshu is a bastard from the union of a human and a demon. The junior martial brother Yin you all speak of is an existence that everyone in the cultivation world wants to beat up. This time, your Daoist Xinshu is here to clean up the sect. If you continue to protect him, do you still see Daoist Xinshu as your senior? Hu Lily sneered and turned to Su Weihong. Who are you? What qualifications do you have to speak here? Su Weihong was provoked by Hu Lily's disdainful gaze and disdainful sneer. He shouted, presumptuous, I am Xianling Sex. Hu Lily rudely interrupted Daoist Su Weihong, who was about to act tough, and said indifferently, Xianling sect? So you're not Xianling's disciple? My Xianling sect is here to discuss the sect's internal affairs. Since when do we need disciples from other sects to make jokes? Can Martial Uncle Xinshu please teach me? Su Weihong was furious. He looked at Hu Lily with a cold glint in his eyes, but then he looked at Reverend Xinshu. He smiled coldly, waiting to see how Reverend Xinshu would respond. He thought that he had succeeded in sowing discord, so he endured the ridicule of being looked down upon and watched the situation develop further. Daoist Xinshu looked at Hu Lily with narrowed eyes, while Daoist Xinshu smiled bitterly. This time, a gloating look appeared in Yuan Zhan's eyes. Unexpectedly, Daoist Xinshu nodded and said, You're right. We are discussing our sect's internal affairs. Disciples from other sects are indeed not allowed to participate. This was out of Su Weihong and Yuan Zhan's expectation. Su Weihong said coldly, Daoist Xinshu, we are here under the orders of our sect's Laozus. Your sect's words, are you not putting the other sect's Laozus in your eyes? Daoist Xinshu replied bluntly, Your sect's Laozus only asked you to come here as witnesses. When did he ask you to interfere in our sect's internal affairs? This Daoist doesn't know about this. When we return, I will definitely talk to my sect's Laozus and let my sect's Laozus communicate with your sect's Laozus. I believe that the other sect's Laozus are all righteous people. This order to interfere in my Jinling's matters must be someone deliberately distorting Fa Xiang Laozu's decree. Su Weihong's face turned pale, and a look of resentment appeared on his face. If Jinling's sect really held on to this point and refused to let go, he might end up like Yin Xinshu, becoming a sacrificial lamb for the sect. Yuan Zhan seemed to have found another opportunity and said, Junior sister, since you said that Yin Xinshu is no longer on Huangli Island, can you allow us to search the island? Hu Lily stretched out a finger and said, First, you are a true spirit-side courtyard disciple in the same batch as Lu Xianping, so please call me senior sister Hu, not junior sister. Second, who do you want to search? Yuan Zhan stretched out his hand and drew a big circle. Then he thought of something and his fingers shrank in the air, pointing at Xuanxiang and himself. He said with a dry smile, Of course, yes, of course it's only me and senior brother Xuanxiang. Hu Lily sneered and said, You don't have the qualifications to give such an order. Taoist Master Lu Xianping is Jinling's alchemy grandmaster, a core member who participates in the major decisions of the sect. His position in the sect is not lower than Martial Uncle Xuanshu's. If you want to search Huangli Island, you must have our sect's Laozu or Taoist Gua Xuanshan's orders. Taoist Master Xinshu naturally came with Jinling Laozu's orders, but Hu Lily's words exploded in Yuan Zhan's ears. He looked back at Taoist Master Xinshu in disbelief, only to hear Taoist Master Xinshu say in a deep voice, This Taoist Master indeed has our sect's Dharma Idol Laozu's order to capture Yin Xinshu. Even if Martial Nephew Lu is here, he will not stop us. Yuan Zhan's ears were buzzing. He didn't expect Lu Ping to be standing so high up, to the point that he had to look up to him. For a moment, he was a little dazed. Hu Lily nodded with a straight face. Taoist Master Xinshu took the lead and walked into the island. Xin Xiang and Yuan Zhan, whose footsteps were a little heavy, chose to go in another direction. The other sect's cultivators were also about to search Huangli Island, but Taoist Master Xinshu suddenly appeared in front of them. He said coldly, You don't have the qualifications to search my Jinling's island. Please follow behind senior brother Xianshu as a witness. This time, the other sect's Taoist masters didn't have any objections. Jinling was very accurate when it came to matters of right and wrong. He didn't give the other sect's Taoist masters any chance to take advantage of him. Other than Xinling's sect, no one was willing to risk offending Jinling to raise any objections. Most of the people chose to follow behind Taoist master Xianshu. There were also a few who leisurely followed behind Yuanzhan and Xinxiang. Su Weihong didn't even think about it and chased after Yuanzhan. Hu Lili gave Zhang Xuanqing a look. Zhang Xuanqing understood and hurriedly followed behind Yuanzhan and the others. Hu Lili then turned around and said, "I'll have to trouble Martial Uncle for today's matter. Please follow behind senior brother Xuanxiang and the others." Taoist master Xianshu smiled and said, "It's fine. Anyway, I also feel that today's matter is very inappropriate. I'll just follow them for a tour of Huangli Island." Then, he walked away. Hu Lili stood on the spot and let out a long sigh. Then, she chased after Taoist master Xianshu. Hu Lili walked in front of Taoist master Xianshu. Taoist master Xianshu looked at Hu Lili and asked, "Martial niece Hu, how long have they been gone?" Hu Lili already knew, but her expression didn't change. She said, "Martial uncle, if you think they have already left, why are you still searching Huangli Island?" Taoist master Xianshu chuckled and didn't say anything. Everyone walked all the way to the center of Huangli Island. There were more and more cultivators here. Although the cultivators on Huangli Island were surprised to see so many core forging cultivators, they didn't show much surprise. Instead, when they saw Hu Lili among them, they enthusiastically greeted her. "Taoist Hu, Taoist Hu." They kept calling out to her. "I can see that you are very respected on Huangli Island. You are also very popular." Taoist master Xianshu casually chatted with Hu Lili. Hu Lili didn't know what Taoist master Xianshu meant, but she vaguely understood that Taoist master Xianshu didn't want to capture Xianshu. But she heard from Lu Ping that Taoist master Xianshu had schemed against Huangli Island, so Hu Lili was still very careful. Taoist master Xianshu saw that Hu Lili's eyes were still filled with vigilance, so he didn't say anything. At this moment, a sound-transmitting magic sword suddenly flew across the sky and fell into Hu Lili's hand. Hu Lili swept it with her divine sense, and suddenly her face was filled with anger. Chapter 475. Upon seeing this, Sage Xianshu's divine sense moved. He seemed to have sensed what had happened, so he smiled and said, "Let's go and take a look." Hu Lili thanked Sage Xianshu solemnly, turned around, and hurried in the direction of Lu Ping's cave abode. Sage Xianshu followed behind Hu Lili unhurriedly. Hu Lili walked to the front of Lu Ping's cave dwelling and saw that the protective array formation around the cave dwelling had crumbled. Not only that, it seemed like the protective array formation was broken through by brute force. Her face immediately turned cold. Enlightened Master Xianshu followed closely behind and frowned at the sight. As soon as Hu Lili entered the cave abode, she heard Yuanzhan's voice, "Junior brother Zhang, you are not my match. It's better for you to move aside. If I don't go in and take a look, how can I be sure that the monster Xianshu is not inside? With you blocking me like this, could it be that Xianshu is really in Junior brother Lu's cave abode? Senior brother Yuan, if you go any further, it will be Senior brother Lu Ping's cultivation room. Without Senior brother Lu's consent, you used brute force to break the array of Senior brother Lu's cave abode and barge in. This is a taboo in the cultivation world. Now, you want to barge into his cultivation room, and you even brought an outsider with you. Aren't you afraid of Senior brother Lu's reprimand?" Hu Lili passed through the cave abode's corridor and came to the hall. She saw Zhang Xuanqing standing in front of Lu Ping's cultivation room, while Yuanzhan, Su Weihong, and a soaring feather sect disciple were standing together, confronting Zhang Xuanqing. Su Weihong originally wanted to berate Zhang Xuanqing, but when he saw Hu Lili enter, he shut his mouth and waited to watch the show. Hu Lili's expression was unfriendly, and she said to Yuanzhan as soon as she entered, "Senior brother Yuan, you are standing in the wrong position. I thought you should be standing by Junior brother Zhang's side to block the outsiders." Hu Lili didn't have a good impression of Yuanzhan, Su Weihong, and the others. With just a single sentence, Yuan Zhan's face turned red with sarcasm. Su Weihong was also a little embarrassed. He immediately retorted, "The situation is very clear now. We were ordered by our respective sects Lao Tzu to accompany your esteemed sect to clean up your sect and to act as witnesses. In reality, your esteemed sect is making all sorts of excuses. We will naturally report what we saw and heard to our own sect's Lao Tzu." When Yuan Zhan saw Hu Lili enter, his arrogance from before was greatly restrained, but he still braced himself and said, "Senior Sister Hu, since we're searching, why don't we search carefully? Could it be that junior brother Lu is really harboring that In Xianchu?" Hu Lili looked at Yuan Zhan seriously and asked, "Are you sure you want to barge into junior brother Lu's cultivation room?" Yuan Zhan's expression fluctuated, while Su Weihong chuckled coldly behind him. Yuan Zhan seemed to have made up his mind and said, "Since it's to clean up the sect, In Xianchu naturally can't be allowed to live. We must capture him, even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground." Hu Lili sneered and said to Zhang Xuanqing beside her, "Junior brother Zhang, move aside. Let him search." Zhang Xuanqing was still a little hesitant. He glanced at Hu Lili as if to confirm what she had just said, only to see Hu Lili nod. Zhang Xuanqing then glared fiercely at Yuan Zhan and moved to the side. Seeing Hu Lili openly move aside the door to Lu Ping's cultivation room, Yuan Zhan had an inexplicable bad premonition in his heart. However, the arrow was already knocked on the bow, and he had no choice but to enter. Yuan Zhan walked towards the door of the cultivation room when Hu Lili suddenly said, "Junior brother Yuan, I hope that you only entered this cultivation room to find junior brother In Xianchu and not have any other motives." Yuan Zhan's footsteps paused, and his expression changed indeterminately. However, he still walked towards the cultivation room in the end, and Su Weihong chuckled as he followed. Zhang Xuanqing intended to go forward and stop him, but Su Weihong seemed to have sensed it and said, "We're witnesses. If In Xianchu is really in the cultivation room, then we can be witnesses." Hu Lili grabbed Zhang Xuanqing, who was about to step forward, and shook her head at him. Yuan Zhan walked to the door of Lu Ping's cultivation room. He saw that the entire door of the cultivation room was covered by a thick layer of restriction light screen. Yuan Zhan looked at these complicated restrictions with surprise and a trace of anticipation. Naturally, he was surprised by this layer of restriction light screen. It was obvious that only those who had a certain level of proficiency in restriction techniques could set up this layer of restriction light screen. In his heart, his fear of Lu Ping deepened. Naturally, he was looking forward to what Hu Lili had warned him before. He naturally did not come in purely for the ridiculous reason of searching for In Xianchu. In fact, even he did not believe that In Xianchu would hide here and not escape as soon as possible. Seeing that Hu Lili was indifferent, Yuan Zhan could only look to Su Weihong for help. However, Su Weihong seemed to be playing dumb and asked, "Junior brother Yuan, is there anything I can do for you?" Hu Lili sneered at the side while Zhang Xuanqing had a look of disdain. Yuan Zhan's expression changed. He stared at Su Weihong's smiling face and said word by word, "I wonder if senior brother Su still has a restriction-breaking talisman on you?" Su Weihong seemed as if he was suddenly enlightened, and he took out a talisman that flickered with golden light from within his sleeve. He said, "So junior brother Yuan wants this thing. Since little brother has it here, how could I be stingy?" He handed the restriction-breaking talisman to Yuan Zhan. Zhang Xuanqing whispered to Hu Lili, "Just now, the array outside the cave mansion was also broken by 2 formation-breaking talismans." Hu Lili nodded. She was an expert in array formations. Although she wasn't an expert in charms, she was still more knowledgeable than the others when it came to breaking array formations. Although Lu Ping's cave dwelling's defensive array formation wasn't of the best quality, Hu Lili had already guessed that Yuan Zhan and the others were able to break through the cave dwelling's defensive array formation without alerting the people on the island. However, she didn't expect Yuan Zhan to use Xin Ling sect's array-breaking charms. In other words, Xin Ling sect was well prepared for this. What was Xin Ling sect trying to do? Naturally, Hu Lili did not think that Xin Ling sect was just trying to sow discord between Zhen Ling's disciples. Xin Ling sect did not need to pay such a huge price for just one Yuan Zhan. Although Lu Ping was qualified, How could Yuan Zhan be worthy of being Lu Ping's opponent? While Hu Lili was still thinking, Yuan Zhan had already received Su Weihong's restriction-breaking talisman and placed it on the cultivation room's door. Layers of light flickered on the door, then disappeared bit by bit. The thick layer of restriction was getting thinner and thinner. However, when the restriction-breaking talisman burned out, there was only a thin layer of restriction left. Yuan Zhan's expression changed while Su Weihong sucked in a breath of cold air. He thought to himself, what a profound restriction. Then, Su Weihong looked at Yuan Zhan in front of him with an amused expression, waiting for him to speak again. At this point, there was no reason for Yuan Zhan to back down. Lu Xinping also would not bury the hatchet with Yuan Zhan just because Yuan Zhan had only used one restriction-breaking talisman but failed to break the cultivation room's restriction. However, it was not easy to make a restriction-breaking talisman and restriction-breaking talisman. Including the two restriction-breaking talismans at the cave entrance, even Su Weihong felt his heart ache. When Hu Lili saw Yuan Zhan take another restriction-breaking talisman from Su Weihong's hand, her eyes seemed to be deep in thought. A moment later, Hu Lili seemed to have thought of something. She looked left and right but found nothing. Where did spiritual master Xian Shu go? At this moment, Lu Ping, who was already flying towards Universe Island with Yin Xianchu, changed his expression the instant the cultivation room's restriction was broken. He immediately recovered. When Ji Xianxian saw this, he couldn't help but ask, Senior Brother Lu, is something wrong? Lu Ping's speed didn't change as he said, it's nothing. The people who captured Junior Brother Yin have already arrived at Huangli Island. It looks like Senior Sister who won't be able to hold on for much longer. With Martial Uncle Xian Shu's abilities, I think they'll soon discover where we're going. We need to speed up. Unfortunately, after the battle on Huangli Island, everyone was more or less injured. Immediately after, they went out to sea to escort Yin Xianchu. Even though they had the support of Lu Ping's superior recovery pills, which allowed them to temporarily recover from their injuries, the true essence in their bodies couldn't support them for a long period of time. Shi Lingling said, we can't go on like this. I'm afraid that when the pursuers catch up, only Junior Brother Lu and you three will be able to put up a fight. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then said, this is my negligence. Since it's like this, then we'll split into 3 groups. Senior Sister Shi, Senior Sister Ma Yu, Senior Brother Zhongjian. The 3 of you will form a group and recover your true essence. If the pursuers behind us come, the 3 of you will just have to think of a way to obstruct them. You must not fight them to the death. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then said, I'll leave the Azure Phoenix here as a helper. If things don't go well, you can just run. I think that as long as the 3 of you reveal your identities as disciples of the sect, Martial Uncle Xian Shu won't make things difficult for you. However, when you return to the sect, a punishment is unavoidable. Zhongjin smiled and said, that's nothing. Since we came out today, we've already been on the sect's punishment list. The sect has to give the other sects an impression. However, our sect has always been protective of our own. The matter with Junior Brother Yin was already forced by our sect, so there's no reason for us to make an example out of it. In the end, it's all bark and no bite. Lu Qiner transformed into a phoenix and descended onto a deserted island with the 3 of them. The 3 of them and the phoenix quickly recovered their true essence while quietly waiting for the pursuers behind them to arrive. After flying for a period of time, Chunlian and the others also couldn't take it anymore. Lu Ping had Chenlian, Du Feng, and spiritual master Xian Tao hide on a reef and left behind pills to recover true essence. Then, he continued flying towards Vast Universe Island with Yin Xianchu and Ji Xianxian. Ji Xianxian said hesitantly, Senior Brother Lu, are we really going to force our way into Vast Universe Island? With just the 3 of us? Lu Ping said in a deep voice, it's just a pretense. Actually, everyone has already thought of it. It's just that out of trust in me, no one exposed it. Currently, even though our sects Tian Shui Laozu and Xinling sects Dao Yin Laozu aren't on Vast Universe Island, it's not like the other sects don't have Laozu overseeing them. How can the 3 of us charge in? Our target is a secret location in the outer seas of Vast Universe Island. You'll know once we get there. The restriction on Huangli Island's cultivation room was finally broken. A dense spiritual qi was like a mountain torrent that had been accumulating for a long time. In the instant the restriction was broken, it surged out from the cultivation room. Not only Yuan Zhan, Su Weihong, and the soaring feather sex disciple, even Zhang Xuanqing, who was standing beside Hu Lili, revealed an astonished expression. This level of density of spiritual qi could only be achieved by at least half a mid-tier spiritual vein. Yuan Zhan revealed an expression of anticipation as he impatiently walked towards the cultivation room. Chapter 476. There's someone in the cultivation room, both Yuan Zhan and Su Weihong exclaimed in their hearts. However, Yuan Zhan was pleasantly surprised that he had finally caught hold of Lu Ping's weakness. Who else could be hiding in the thick restriction at this time other than Yin Xianqiu? He was almost fooled by Lu Xuanping's trick. Fortunately, he withstood the pressure and persisted in breaking into the cultivation room. Su Weihong was surprised. He didn't believe that Yin Xianqiu could be caught so easily. Moreover, it was in Lu Xuanping's own cultivation room. If someone took the opportunity to make things difficult for Lu Xianping, wouldn't Jinling have to punish his own family in the name of righteousness again? Yuan Zhan charged into the cultivation room, but he quickly retreated at a speed faster than when he entered. A golden halberd rushed out of the cultivation room with a fiery red explosion. Yuan Zhan's expression changed greatly. He took out a white jade shield and shouted, "Brother Su, help me." Su Weihong's expression was solemn. With a shake of his hand, a rainbow shot out. Unexpectedly, the halberd that shot out of the cultivation room seemed to be a bluff. With a fierce momentum, it made contact with the white jade shield and retreated on its own before Su Weihong's rainbow could reach it. An angry roar came from the cultivation room. Who the F***CK dares to trespass into someone else's cave abode? Scram. Senior brother Yao Yong? Why are you here? Yuan Zhan was still in shock. He finally put away the white jade shield in his hand and asked in surprise. He moved his feet and wanted to continue walking in. The golden halberd rushed out again and pointed at Yuan Zhan, who was about to enter the cave abode. Yuan Zhan had no choice but to stop. Su Weihong's eyes narrowed. He stood behind Yuan Zhan without making a sound, but there was a flash of light in his eyes. He inadvertently looked into the cultivation room. Clearly, it was a kind of ability that cultivated the eyes. He felt that Yao Yong's golden halberd seemed powerful, but it was indeed strong in appearance. In addition, the halberd had retreated midway, which made it even more strange. Beside him, Hu Lili's eyes were also flickering with green light. She could see the divine light in Su Weihong's eyes. Yuan Zhan, what are you trying to do? I was severely injured in the battle with the demon clan, and it wasn't easy for me to beg junior brother Lu to seal the spiritual vein in his cultivation room to recuperate. Now, you've broken the seal of the cultivation room, almost causing me to suffer from qi deviation and my cultivation to be destroyed. Yuan Zhan, what are your intentions? Are you trying to kill me? Do you really think that I, Yao Yong, am a tiger that has fallen to the ground? I might have to ask my teacher, perfected Chu Xuanqing, to judge the situation. Also, who is that person behind you? How come we haven't seen him in our sect? Could it be that you, Yuan Zhan, have received orders from some sect to murder me? Are you even a disciple of Jinling? Yao Yong's series of reprimands and questions, coupled with the fact that he had colluded and schemed with Yao Yong, immediately made Yuan Zhan, who was already somewhat guilty, break out in cold sweat. For a moment, he stood at the door of the cultivation room, not knowing whether to retreat or enter. At this moment, perfected Xian Shu appeared in the cave dwelling. He glanced at the cultivation room and said, "Yin Xianqiu isn't here. All of you, leave." Yuan Zhan felt as if he had been granted amnesty and hurriedly left the cave dwelling. Su Weihong's face was full of resentment as he sighed inwardly at Yuan Zhan's incompetence. He also left. Hu Lili gave a few instructions to Yao Yong, who was in the cultivation room, before closing the stone door. The seal that had been broken by Su Weihong's restriction-breaking talisman began to slowly recover. When Hu Lili walked out of the cave dwelling, she discovered that perfected Xian Shu had already summoned perfected Xian Xiang and the others. Seeing Hu Lili walk out of the cave dwelling, perfected Xian Shu said indifferently, "It seems that In Xian Shu is definitely not on Huangli Island. The Northern Sea is already an inescapable trap for him. Unless he hides somewhere and doesn't show himself, he can only leave the Northern Sea. Martial niece Hu, is what the old man said, right?" Hu Lili smiled calmly and said, "This is only Martial Uncle's guess. It is not convenient for me to comment." "All right, then we will make a trip to Huanyu Island." Perfected Xian Shu led the way out of Huangli Island. Yuan Zhan and the others had already figured something out. Their expressions changed as they followed perfected Xian Shu out of the island. Hu Lili's expression changed and she suddenly said, "Martial Uncle, please wait." Perfected Xian Shu turned his head and smiled. "What? Is there any other way to stall for time?" Hu Lili said sternly, reporting to Martial Uncle, "Although the protective formation and the seal in the cultivation room aren't anything brilliant, it is the result of Junior Lu Swamping's and my efforts. However, it was so easily destroyed by Junior Lu Xinping. If Martial Uncle leaves without a care, it is inevitable that we will be dissatisfied." Without waiting for perfected Xian Shu to speak, Yuan Zhan flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "Senior Martial Sister Hu, don't push your luck. We are searching for In Xianchu under the orders of our sex Laozu. Are you questioning our sex Laozu?" Hu Lili completely disregarded the threatening Yuan Zhan in front of her. She only looked at the expressionless perfected Xian Shu with a faint smile. Perfected Xian Shu suddenly smiled and said, "Martial niece Hu, do you have any rules?" Yuan Zhan seemed to be choked to death. His face flushed red as he looked at his uncle in front of him. Hu Lili smiled sweetly and pointed at perfected Xian Xiang. Huangli Island has just been attacked by the demon race. Currently, only Martial Uncle Xian Shu, Junior Zhang Xuanqing, and Martial Uncle Xian Su are on the island. The others are not on the island. Junior Yao Yong and Junior Sister Zhang Jia are both seriously injured and won't be able to recover in a short period of time. Therefore, the island's defense is weak. Martial niece would like to ask Martial Uncle to let senior brother Xian Xiang stay on Huangli Island for the time being to help Martial niece and the others protect Huangli Island. When junior brother Lu and the others return, it won't be too late for senior brother Xian Xiang to leave. Perfected Xian Shu chuckled and said, "You're really wishful thinking. Do you think that without Xian Xiang, In Xuanchu's strength will be weakened and he will be able to escape?" Hu Lili giggled and said, "Martial Uncle is right. It is precisely because Junior believes that with Martial Uncle's help, In Xianchu will definitely be captured. Therefore, I shamelessly ask senior brother Xian Xiang to stay and help Martial niece and the others protect Huangli Island for a period of time to avoid being taken advantage of by others. Senior brother Xian Xiang is one of the strongest third-generation disciples in our sect. He is only one step away from breaking through to the late core forging stage. With senior brother Xian Xiang here, Huangli Island will certainly be impregnable." After Hu Lili finished speaking, she glanced at Su Weihong out of the corner of her eyes. Perfected Xian Shu naturally noticed Hu Lili's actions. After muttering to himself for a moment, he turned to perfected Xian Xiang, who had a somewhat complicated expression on his face, and said, "Fine, you don't have to participate in this pursuit. The safety of Huangli Island is much more important to our sect than a mixed human and demon In Xianchu." After perfected Xian Xiang began to capture In Xianchu, he had been obstructed by the disciples of his sect, both openly and covertly. In addition, he himself was an outstanding cultivator that Zhenling had nurtured since childhood, so he had long been unwilling to participate in this operation. However, this matter was handled by perfected Xian Shu. As his disciple, perfected Xian Xiang was naturally duty-bound to assist his teacher. Perfected Xian Xiang had followed perfected Xian Shu for several decades. How could perfected Xian Shu not understand his disciple's thoughts? Thus, after hearing Hu Lili's explanation, he took the opportunity to have perfected Xian Xiang stay on Huangli Island. After leaving Huangli Island, perfected Su Weihong had a gloomy expression on his face as he asked perfected Xian Shu, "Senior Xian Shu, what should we do now? Why do we need to go to Huanyu Island?" Perfected Xian Shu leisurely said, If Xinshu wants to leave the North Sea, he can only go to the East Sea. Now that he has been expelled from our sect's teleportation formation that leads to the East Sea will naturally not be open to him. Similarly, the teleportation formation that leads to the East Sea from the various sects in the North Sea will naturally not be open to outsiders. Thus, the only teleportation formation that can be used is Huanyu Island. On the surface of the sea, perfected Xinshu and the others were flying in the direction of Huanyu Island. However, at this moment, perfected Xinshu's divine sense moved, as if he had discovered something. However, he frowned, as if his divine sense was being interfered with and could not see clearly. Just at this moment, a vast wave of spiritual qi spread over. Within the wave, there was a special kind of wave. Perfected Xinshu's expression turned grave as he said, "Demon race?" The expressions of the various sects cultivators that followed perfected Xinshu changed. They saw that in the center of the spiritual qi wave high up in the sky, a huge boulder the size of a small mountain suddenly appeared in the sky, charging towards perfected Xinshu and the others. When the huge boulder streaked across the sky, it brought with it a huge spark. In an instant, it split into countless fiery meteorites, enveloping perfected Xinshu and the others within the range of the countless falling meteorites. Talisman weapon? Meteorite descent. Perfected Xinshu exclaimed, as if he had thought of something. Perfected Xinshu didn't have time to say anything. He opened up a huge jade umbrella and held it up, protecting the people around him. Before the falling meteorites could hit the jade umbrella, they were slowed down by a layer of light attached to the surface of the umbrella and bounced off. However, perfected Xinshu's jade umbrella could only protect the people around him. The cultivators from the other sects were not so lucky. Several people were injured when they tried to block the falling meteorites, or were directly smashed into the sea by the huge impact of the falling meteorites. Fortunately, these cultivators only spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and their lives were not harmed. The talisman weapon was made by Fa Xiang Laozu. Just like the talisman treasures made by perfected core forging Taoists were a huge threat to blood condensation realm cultivators, the talisman weapon made by Fa Xiang Laozu was also a tyrannical deterrent to core forging realm cultivators. A crisp and proud chirp came from the sky. A huge luan appeared in the distant sky. When it spread its wings, which were about 6 feet long, it flapped and was covered by a layer of green and red light. Immediately after, the luan quickly flew into the distance. Bastard! So it's just an early-stage core forging realm bird demon. He dares to enter the inner sea just because he has a talisman weapon? He's simply courting death. Fortunately, he's just an early-stage core forging realm demonic cultivator. It's difficult for him to unleash the full power of the talisman weapon. Otherwise, a few people would have died this time. Kill this bird demon and take his talisman weapon. When the crowd saw that the one who sneak attacked them was actually an early-stage core forging realm demonic cultivator, 3 or 4 of the perfected masters who were panicking because of the talisman weapon immediately flew out and chased after the fleeing wand. Talisman weapon. It was a life-saving item for core forging realm cultivators. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.